want me to be your podcast? You know, I can be whatever you want me to be. Now, I was very tempted. To do. Some podcasts give terrible blowjobs, no rhythm at all, no sense of cock whatsoever.
My favorite line.
I mean, it's maybe one of the best lines ever written. And the fact that she immediately responds with no sense of cock whatsoever.
Right.
That she repeats it back to him.
Yeah.
It's one of the most absurd things ever said.
Well, I just think there's so much that I love about this film.
Yeah.
It's a favorite film of mine, and I love Meg Ryan's performance.
Mm-hmm.
I love a lot of the performances, but I do think the Ruffalo thing, it's easy to imagine many actors being cast in this role, right?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
many an actor would love to play a New York City cop
Mm-hmm.
who's horny
Yeah.
and kind of earthy.
And like the world's best lover.
And sure, and gives good head.
Right.
But like, could anyone be doing quite what he's doing here?
No.
Right?
No.
That's maybe the most magic element of this very
Yes.
sort of special movie with all kinds of great magic elements.
And I would argue he got dinged less for this movie than Campion and Ryan, but it still arguably knocked his career back a step.
At least to the side a step or
Right,
something.
yeah.
I don't know.
Like
yeah,
it kind
yeah.
of obliterated Ryan and Campion. He was just like, everyone went like, hold on 1 second, let's slow down on Ruffalo. They questioned a little bit. And even you read like some of the reviews are like, he's the only good thing in this movie. But this thing was so fucking radioactive. It is hard to like explain to people how much this movie was just like sort of message as catastrophe.
Right. Atomic bomb.
Everyone
Meg
involved
Ryan's
should go to
career
jail.
Over,
Bunk
F
on the head,
cinema
horny
store.
jail.
Sure, right.
Right. How dare
yeah.
you?
I strongly remember something from VH1, and I don't know if it was like an I Love the 2000s thing
Best
or
week ever, probably.
or 100 Hottest Hotties.
Sure.
It was one of those things where they mention this movie and they mention it in a way that like strongly suggests it's like this is disgusting.
Yes.
And Meg
Yes.
Ryan looked, and you got to see her pubic hair, and like it was just this weird thing. My only experience within the cut was just that weird VH1 voiceover that seemed to really hate it, and I was very confused by
There
that.
was
that
this
it's
two-pronged
not
thing.
hot. Beyond the
Right,
fact that, like,
right.
not just that it's, sure, it's like a sort of sexy, filthy movie, but like,
Yeah.
bleh, like that
Yeah.
definitely was a bit of an undertone to some of the reaction of
There
this
was this
movie.
weird
Right.
two-pronged thing of
I don't wanna see that.
simultaneously, right?
Right.
Simultaneously, people were saying, "How dare they?" Right? Like sort of
Right.
like morally offended. I think more than anything by how dare you do that with Meg Ryan? That's not allowed, right?
Right.
And then simultaneously, people were like, "This thing is silly," and it was like both at the same time.
Sure.
Like they were like, "This is too sexy and gross," and also it's ridiculous and laughable.
Mhm.
Which are kind of contradictory things. I mean, it speaks to
Very.
the very specific tone of this movie, but people just like didn't know what to fucking make of it. It made them angry. It was so widely derided. The thing that I had forgotten that astonished me at the very beginning of this movie is that it is a Screen Gems release.
It sure is.
Which is one of those things that just makes you pause and go like, oh, Screen Gems at this point is like less than 5 years old.
right.
And it was just sort of Sony saying, like, we want an arm for smaller movies. And smaller movies was a pretty broad umbrella. And this same season, like within a month, this movie and Underworld come out. And that's sort of like, oh, cool. That's the only thing Screen Gems is going to do for the rest of the time.
Right. I mean, to be clear, Screen Gems had existed for a long time, and Sony
I'm sorry.
revived it as
The
a
modern
as like
incarnation of Screen
a sort of
Gems.
smaller like horror / teen / genre
But they
label.
were also like, it's maybe for adult dramas. Like Screen Gems would
They did
acquire Girl
Slackers.
Fight at Sundance. They
Yeah,
would do
yeah.
Slackers. Like it was anything that felt a little too specialized for big Sony, but it wasn't like Sony classics.
but
Mm.
But them releasing a movie like this is unfathomable.
but they did not finance this film at all.
Sure.
Right.
I'm just
That's
saying.
the only thing. That's the only.
It got
Right.
just to see the logo in front of it is bizarre.
It is bizarre because usually you would see that in front of like the Mothman prophecies or whatever.
Right. Right.
Absolutely.
Right. It's bizarre.
I mean, didn't this come out on like Halloween too?
Yes.
It came out October 31st,
It-
2003.
The day itself. Yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely should not have come out. Well,
It should have come out in the summer.
absolutely
In terms of the atmosphere of the film,
Hot.
like that would make the most sense.
Hot months.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
sweaty movie. I guess it's like if you're gonna sit someone down and say you got to see in the cut, I guess you would say like it's like a romantic thriller, but it is like there's a killer on the loose. So I guess you could sort of convince a studio like this is a fall thing. This is an adult thriller. It's
but
like,
also, look, it had done the rounds at festivals. It was hated. And Halloween is kind of a dump weekend because, like, people go to fucking parties all weekend. I mean, it's like Halloween day itself, wherever it lands, is always like an incredibly bad movie-going day, right? Because everyone wants to fucking go out.
Unless it's a horror movie right.
But
for
even then, it's usually like the day before or after that movie might have a good weekend. But that day is just like a fucking nothing. To release like an adult drama on Halloween just feels like a complete shrug of like, contractual obligation. We backed ourselves into this.
Mm-hmm.
This is talking about contractual obligations that we backed ourselves into. This is year 7 of a podcast called Blank Check with Griffin and David. I'm Griffin.
I'm David. Sure.
It's a podcast about filmographies, directors who have massive success early on in their careers and are given a series of blank checks to make whatever crazy passion projects they want. Sometimes those checks clear, and sometimes they're in the cut, baby.
Sure. What's your contractual obligation angle here?
I was just make a joke about us being trapped doing this show forever, which of course I kid because I love it. And I love you.
Oh, I love you too.
I'm trying to say I love you to people more.
Yeah, you should.
Ben, I love you. Producer Ben.
I love you too, Griffin.
This is a mini-series on the films of Jane Campion.
Yeah.
It is called The Podcastiano.
Absolutely.
Today we're getting to...
I was thinking with that.
Yeah, please.
Just really quick. Have you ever thought we could go like podcastiano, like Mambo Italiano? Have you ever thought about that, guys?
I think I'm going to put that on like a TBD, right? Let's table.
David, I have to admit, I have thought about it.
You have thought about that?
Well, I have, because I kept on saying, like, I wish the name of this miniseries was a little more abstracted. When people hear it, it makes too much sense too quickly.
Right.
Hence why I've been throwing the Italian accent onto it. And I'm like, no, let's get further away from any recognizable word.
It's also funny now that the piano is behind us and we're covering in the cut, but it's still called the Podcastiano.
I know. I'm like, I'll say this. In that one sense, I'm glad she hasn't made 20 movies. Like, if we had to do 15 post-piano episodes and I was still saying Podcastiano, I'd feel a little bit silly. But I don't. I feel very normal and smart.
Good, you are.
Normal and smart. Joining us, of course, film critic, host of the Bad Romance podcast, and a notable in the cut stan.
Sorry. Say her name again. I'm sorry. I talked over.
Jordan Searles, in the cut scholar.
Well, you recently introduced a screening of it, right? At
Nighthawk in Williamsburg.
Oh, like very recently.
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
And it was a really good time. Like almost every seat was filled. I feel like we only had like 4 extra tickets or something like that. It's crazy.
You are cited on the Wikipedia page for this movie in the subsection about like the reclaiming of it.
I'm so glad. I mean, I saw this movie for the first time in the fall of 2018 and wrote about it for the first time in January 2019. So it's just been wild. It hasn't been that long since I've seen it, but I just immediately latched onto it, and I had been avoiding it for years because I had heard that it was bad.
Yeah. Wow, should it?
And I've always been a Jane Campion fan. I've loved Jane Campion since I was a kid. I was that kid inappropriately watching the piano. So so it was kind of, and I was so mad at myself when I finally watched it for avoiding it for so long because it's so incredible.
I mean, David, you and I saw it together. You had already seen it.
I saw this film when it came out.
Right.
I've always been an In the Cut fan. On the Oscar Watch,
okay,
I was well known for being the In the Cut is good person.
Wow.
Little 17-year-old David thought he was so smart, but it was good.
Yes.
Then and now.
It was your Ang Lee Hulk. It was your derided film of 2003.
Right. I was probably not that high on Hulk.
Right. Whereas I was the person who was like, I'm telling you, 4 acting noms for Hulk.
What a good year 2003
03 was really good. Here's another thing. 03 was a really good year for like commercial cinema.
Well, sure.
There are great like foreign art house independent films, but also 2003 has blockbusters that are like good. It has good comedies. It has like good populist movies on top of everything else, which makes it a little bit of a rarity in the modern era. But my first time seeing it was with you.
Oh, so you'd never seen it? We went to the Quad, me, you, Alex Ross Perry, and his wife
Anna.
That must have been, I don't know, was that a few years ago?
2017.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw it at the Quad, so I wonder if it was actually
It was-
20. If it was, because I know it was
Maybe,
playing in
yeah.
2018. I don't know if it was.
I
Playing.
think, I mean, it's
Yeah.
at the time of that screening, I knew you liked it, but I was mostly going to see it. I mean, we wanted to make plans for the four of us to hang out, right?
Right.
And it was like, oh, let's go see
I remember
this.
we were just kind of like looking at like what's a good rep screening coming up or
Right,
whatever.
right. And I was like, oh, I'm like interested in this movie that's a famous disaster, but I think I was going to with morbid curiosity more than anything else, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And there was that bizarre feeling of just like, oh no, this is like good. This is not, I don't even feel like I'm forming a radical opinion here.
No.
And the tide had maybe started to turn a little bit, but I think it's gotten much louder in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
I was just surprised. And then yesterday I saw my dear friend Andrew Taven,
Yep.
and we were talking about how he had been watching Campion movies for the podcast recently.
And
And he was like, I was watching The Cut, and I was like, oh, it's great, right? And he was like, yeah, I guess it is. It made me feel uncomfortable.
sure.
And I've spent the last 5 years so in the mode of like, of course, In the Cut is great, and everyone was unfairly critical of it at the time, that it took him saying that and then me rewatching it last night to remind myself, oh, it is a deeply uncomfortable movie. Like, as much as I think most of the criticisms at the time were stupid, it is a movie that does not, like,
well,
you understand it being off-putting to people, even if I feel like they misidentified what was making them uncomfortable and blamed it on other things that were dumb.
Well, yeah, I know. I mean, it seems like it was a movie that people were scared of, which is fascinating to me because I've always been really into erotic thrillers because I had one of those moms that was just like, whatever I'm watching, you're also watching it. I'm not changing it to something for kids.
Sure.
So I've been watching erotic thrillers like my whole life, and I think that. I was just so shocked because it was just, this is an erotic thriller. There have been so many of these. What's the problem? But I think it's the vantage point of
It's
it,
the
point
perspective.
it's the perspective of it that really, really makes people uncomfortable.
And this is I would say at the tail end, right, of the erotic thriller. Like it has become, Unfaithful is the year before. And I remember Unfaithful having kind of this, like
Another
Adrian
one?
Lyne's
Right.
still kind of cooking with gas a little bit.
Yeah.
Remember him? But like,
And that movie's a lot more prestige-y.
Well,
And
but
I
that movie's
don't even like that movie. I don't understand why people were going.
David loves it.
that movie rules.
People were okay, fine.
I
yeah.
love that movie. But
Okay.
but that movie is a very, I would say,
Right.
down the line,
Yes.
Yeah.
classic erotic thriller, very male gazy,
Right.
Not like in a awful way, but
I mean,
it's an Adrian Lyne movie.
I mean,
also-
I
right.
love the Snow Globe. Snow Globe's good.
I love the wind blowing her
Oh, yeah.
around when she's feeling all crazy.
But
Yeah.
let's also acknowledge,
Yeah.
like, Michael Douglas was the king of the erotic thriller for like
Absolutely,
a 10-year
right,
period.
right,
And
in the
Adrian Lyne
90s,
was the
yeah.
guy who helped define that. And that's the model of what America feels comfortable with in an erotic thriller. And Unfaithful is him kind of closing the loop.
a little bit like
And
Yeah.
it's like, that era is done. We have not figured out what the next era of erotic
I'm looking
thriller
at like a, to be Wikipedia, but still a list of erotic thrillers.
Sure.
And the only other one in 2003 of any note is the French movie Swimming Pool, which is a pretty good movie.
I like that
solid
movie a lot.
Um,
And was like, that was like a breakout. That was like an art house breakout.
yeah, because it was your uncle's favorite movie. But
Absolutely.
nonetheless, it's a good movie.
It was the first French movie my father saw in like 15 years. It was because my mom is French, my dad's very American, and my father has like no interest in French movies.
But like,
and I just remember him being like, "Is Swimming Pool still playing?" My mom
obviously,
was like,
this
"He
is
just wants to see this fucking."
obviously
You heard there's
the
two sets
movie
of
is
boobs in
bad,
it.
but a couple years later, you have Basic Instinct 2, which is sort of this like, hey, can we like,
Right. Well,
put this back in the microwave?
pin
And
in this
everyone's
point.
like,
I'm going to
"We're
get back
over
to this
it."
in a second. Yeah. And then
Okay,
what else?
wait,
on this
Swimming Pool
timeline?
is bad?
No,
Basic Instinct 2.
Instinct.
Risk
Oh,
it.
Basic
2.
Instinct 2.
Swimming Pool's good.
I've never watched.
It's not good.
No.
I mean, it's not a.
Yeah.
It's not a good idea.
No.
what they did there.
No,
it doesn't seem.
At some point, I want to be more thorough and loop back around to all the other weird Verhoeven sequels I haven't seen.
Oh, like that he didn't make.
Well, I held off on seeing the RoboCop sequels for
you
so
finally
long.
watched those,
But
sure.
like, I've never seen Basic Instinct 2.
Uh-huh.
I've never seen Hollow Man 2 with Christian
The
Slater.
direct-to-video,
There
Hollow
are the
Man, right.
3 direct-to-video Starship
Well, there's
Troopers.
there's a whole world of
But like
Starship
Neumeier
Troopers.
directed one.
I know.
Phil Tippett directed one. There's the bizarre Showgirl sequel.
Oh man, yeah.
Pennies from Heaven.
That.
Yeah, directed or like conceived by one of the
supporting
actors
actors,
in the
and it's
film.
all
Right,
about
right.
her character.
Look,
yeah,
as Jordan was saying,
yes.
I do think it's the perspective was surprising to people. The but also the Meg Ryan of it like just cannot be understated. It was just.
Yeah,
it was whatever. It's such an iconic example of a star, quote unquote, defying their image and it throwing people off versus it prompting acclaim, even though she rules in this movie.
People's relationship to Meg Ryan is something that I've never really fully been able to grasp. Like, I mean, a lot of it has to do with me not being white. I've always loved her, but the idea of her like stripping naked and getting eaten out doesn't negate anything. Like, it doesn't change the way that I feel about any of her work where she isn't doing that in a way that it clearly did for white people.
There's sort of a 3-point like sort of thing to address in sort of where Meg Ryan is culturally at this moment, right? We talked about, I mean, she's like, obviously you have like, she breaks out in like Top Gun and everything, right? But then like, obviously when Harry Met Sally is like the breakthrough, right?
Yeah.
And as often is the case with movie stars, not that she isn't also a very skilled actress, but when you transcend into movie star, the one where the audience falls in love with you becomes the thing in their mind.
She is the ultimate example.
That's the problem. She's like, also just defining like the best version of that.
Very packaged as a specific, type.
Yes.
Anytime she deviates from it, forget In the Cut. Just think of like Courage Under Fire or Addicted to Love or whatever. Any movie where she's kind of trying to like break out of the role she's best known for, audiences are not interested. This movie obviously is way more drastic a swerve. Audiences are not interested. She's such a talented actress and yet never got enough shots at
the most range she was given was like, you can do City of Angels or When a Man Loves a Woman. You can play the sad version of a Meg Ryan character.
She's great in When a Man Loves a Woman.
She's a good actor.
I think that she's actually like great in Addicted to Love. That's another
that
one
movie
it's one of David's favorite movies.
Yes, like that's one of those that like I heard was bad. Addicted to Love is like really good. I'm planning on doing a bad romance episode on it to explain. No, it's good actually. What is wrong with all
Jordan? David has pushed the idea of a Griffin Dunn miniseries many times, and I've said to him, like, we could also just do an Addicted to Love
But I also like Practical Magic.
Oh, I know you want to talk about Practical Magic?
That would be, those are the two. I mean, I'm not like a big Fierce People fan.
Sure.
But like,
Lisa Picard is famous.
I never saw Lisa Picard. Sure. But Addicted to Love is great, but even Addicted to Love, sure, she's got the blonde hair, but it's a little spiky.
And it's
sure,
she's a romantic comedy, but it's like a bitter one.
Yeah.
Right. Like people were just so sort of reined into what they wanted from her. And I think part of it is like, A, that's what they fell in love with her for doing, right? But B, it's like that was sort of a peak time for those genres.
Yeah, absolutely.
There was like a real like
Hollywood makes a lot of those kinds of movies, and she's sort of atop of the heap.
And she was so clearly the best at it that I think there was also a degree that when she wasn't doing that, people were like, come on, you're depriving us.
Why aren't we getting our Meg Ryan movie this year? Or whatever? I don't know.
You're being selfish here.
Before In the Cut, obviously, she's in Proof of Life a couple of 3 years earlier.
So that's point 2.
Which is sort of
that's the one where she did it with Russell Crowe, and also she like cheated with Russell Crowe.
Yes. Well, her marriage to Dennis Quaid, who of course seems like a totally normal, chill dude with no problems at all.
This is what is so. I was
falls apart
this to my father.
A huge, tabloid thing. Like they're obsessed over it. It wasn't just that like there was a cheating scandal though. It was like it's the Russell Crowe thing with like of course Russell Crowe's going to steal your lady. He was at the peak kind of like, this is the masculine ideal. He's rugged.
So charged. And it was like, I mean, I guess the phone throwing incident happens after this.
Sure, he's crazy.
Right. But also that next year, there was that thing that I totally forgot about and dug up. And I feel like I mentioned this on a recent episode that there was like, the FBI intercepted a threat that the Taliban wanted to kidnap Russell Crowe before the Oscars because they thought it was the message that would most destabilize America.
Oh, they were just like, this is the hinge point.
Despite him being an Aussie,
I do remember
this would
that.
really fucking shake them up if we kidnapped
They were
Russell
basically,
Crowe.
we need to get the #1 movie star, right? Male movie star.
Right.
Sure.
I just think, everyone was so excited. I'm doing another list of ABC.
Yeah.
But like people were just so excited that it was like, fuck it, new male star, new fucking alpha male. And he's like a heavyweight actor and he can fucking do action and all this shit and he's fucking women and whatever. And then he fucked Meg Ryan and they were like, fuck you, Meg Ryan. You've gone too far.
I know.
There was no like shade on him. Everyone seemed to take Dennis Quaid's side, which is a little bizarre considering, as you said, that he's clearly a very normal person.
Dennis Quaid was in his Parent Trap era at the time. He was like, I've kicked booze. I'm hot. Go ahead, Jordan.
Dennis Quaid is a creep, and I knew this when I was a child. Like, he has always come off like a creep to me. It's
a lot of stories. It doesn't take a lot of time to dig down.
You guys aren't into the Renaissance?
Weird. Well, look, we have no choice. The Renaissance is just a reality. We have to acknowledge
Jordane,
it.
he has a podcast called The Renaissance. That's a real thing. It's on now.
That is absolutely untrue. No, this is fake.
If you think about it that way, this up. He's actually a coworker of ours because he works in the podcast space. I
absolutely hate this. The thing about it is that like I hate both Dennis Quaid and Russell Crowe, and so my opinion to this information was, girl, I want more for you.
Yeah.
Well,
but I also understand that like. The thing is also that Dennis Quaid cheated on her a lot too, so it's just like it's like wild shit. It's just like, okay, so he can go and get it somewhere and she can't. Like, give her some space, man.
Absolutely. But I think as opposed to maybe like Kidman, Cruise, Willis, Moore, and I think a lot of this was Ryan, there was a perception of like they're the normal Hollywood couple.
Right, they're the People magazine friendly types, like
and I think people knew Dennis Quaid had a wild man reputation, but it never was like Sean Penn, where it was like all over the fucking tabloids. And I think the perception at the time was, oh, she kind of domesticated him. So by the time she cheats on him, which
people were just very into, it's like you said, her and Dennis Quaid, Bruce Willis and Demi Moore,
it was a power couple era.
Alec Baldwin and Kim Basinger,
famously
stable relationship.
But I think they were perceived as the most normal
because Meg Ryan is the girl next door.
Exactly.
Anyway,
so it's like that betrays that. And then the third thing, which we just have to acknowledge, is she turns 40, right?
Sure.
And I think she is aware of the fact where it's like, I can't be Meg Ryan within these narrow confines forever. I need to, in some way, sort of start to experiment with what else I can do.
Well, post Proof of Life, she makes Kate and Leopold, a great film.
So Proof of Life is like step one of like, can I try to work in sort of the Courage Under Fire genre, right? That movie's a flop and it's a fucking...
not a bad movie.
Nightmare for her press-wise, right? Then, as you said, she does Kate Leopold, which is her highest grossing film in the last 22 years.
It's her last Meg Ryan
movie.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she's doing it with a younger man, and it's sort of like her being like, I maybe got one of these left in me.
Yeah, new star.
I'm a woman now. Like, I can't keep on playing these sort of what you call the flibberty gibbet roles.
And I mean, you can see it in Kate and Leopold, where her whole thing is like, yes, I'm Meg Ryan, but also like, I'm tired. I'm tired of your shit. I'm tired of all of this.
I'm maybe a little over being Meg Ryan. Is her character in Kate Leopold?
Because he's been ripped from the timeline. Elevators no longer exist. My favorite part of Kate and Leopold, because he invented the elevator, elevators start vanishing. That movie has such like weird fungible like rules about like time travel that I am obsessed with to this day.
It's that weird Mangold effect of just everything's a little better than it needs to be.
I agree.
Where you're just like, he puts a little more thought into the logic of these things in a way that makes it like,
it's also
compellingly bizarre.
It's the sort of Hugh Jackman is early, and so he's not picking his projects yet, and he's been like shoehorned into this like
he doesn't know who he is as a movie
time
star.
Travel, English Lord thing, and he just is sort of, again, he's just kind of like 20% more than whatever like someone else could have been. I don't know. I defend that movie.
Me too.
Yeah, no, it's good. But so that's
you want to watch Kate and Leopold right now?
Episode over.
His butter scene really good.
Man.
But that movie is a hit, right? And just to go back,
it's a solid hit.
Just to acknowledge an obvious thing, 99 is You've Got Mail. So she ends off the millennium with like fucking third time around with Hanks, Efron again, just doing the exact thing. And then it's like Hinge Point, 2000, Russell Crowe, Proof of Life, Kate and Leopold. Okay, you're back where we want you.
Mm-hmm. Now, In the Cut.
And then In the Cut
is obviously intended for Nicole Kidman.
Yes.
Campion had been working on this movie since the mid 90s when she read Susanna Moore's novel, which came out in 95.
Yeah.
Kidman acquires it. Like Campion takes it to Kidman and is like, your company should option this book. It's interesting, and Kidman reads it and is like, I agree. So that was the plan.
Right. And it's like right after Portrait of a Lady. This book's published in 96?
95.
95. Okay. Yeah.
And they have this idea that they can finance the film themselves by doing all the foreign pre-sales.
Okay.
That they're like, we have Kidman, we have a book that people can read.
Sure.
And Campion says she feels bad because she told Harvey Weinstein, who is obviously a major producer of the moment.
Yes.
That it could be kind of a Seven type. She compares it to Seven to him.
Yeah.
And she says, like, I probably shouldn't have done that because it's not a great comparison. Like, obviously, there's sort of superficial comparisons you can make or whatever. But,
right.
But Harvey, I think, heard that and was like Lady
we could
Seven.
use a 7.
Like, like, great.
Yeah.
And then the budget inflates and the whole thing gets harder to do.
Right.
Harvey's involved for a while and then drops out.
Okay.
Because he's insane and awful. Or whatever. He's doing his usual bullshit where he's, I don't know, making weird demands about the story. Or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they drop out and Pathé ended up funding the entire film. $12 million.
Okay. And then Screen Gems gets distribution. Yeah.
But Kidman is such a huge part of the package.
Absolutely.
Right? Like, obviously.
And this is, look, we talked on Portrait of a Lady, like, up until this point, but, Kidman post-divorce has this, like, kind of wild run, but she also drops out of a lot of things. Like, she's supposed to do Panic Room and drops out, like, a week or two before.
That's a big one.
Right.
Or similar
time. She's really making, like, strong choices in her movie stardom and some of them good, some of them bad.
She's post-divorce. She's post-Eyes Wide Shut, which is this huge grueling shoot. She had a bad knee injury, she said, which is the reason she didn't do Panic Room. She says it's the reason she didn't do this movie.
Yeah.
And she also said, like,
right, because Moulin Rouge was like a 2-year shoot because
of
her injury.
Thing.
Right.
And she said, like, I was so happy when Meg Ryan got the chance. I love when people get chances to do things you don't immediately think, oh, that's perfect for them. I love all of Jane's films. People like her change the world artistically. I mean, she speaks very, like, benevolently about, like, that was great. Meg Ryan's great.
No,
like, no beef.
I don't think in either of these cases the film would have been maybe loved by.
No, but the film people would have gotten it with Nicole Kidman.
And by the way, I think they would have gotten it with Jennifer Jason Leigh. I think both of those are actresses. I'm just to do the mental experiment because I was watching the movie and like flipping them in my head.
Certainly. I mean, right. Jennifer Jason Leigh, this is just an art house movie.
Right. But like Kidman, you could have, because I mean, she does fucking movies like Birthday Girl around the same period of time where people are like, I don't know, it's a crappy Nicole Kidman erotic thriller.
There's no question. Wow.
Right. Like, even if they disliked it, they wouldn't have been like, how dare you?
How do you feel about Kidman in this movie, Jordan? Like, the original plan. Probably works. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it probably works, but there is something, I think that Meg Ryan brings something so interesting to it. Like I believe Meg Ryan as an English teacher, I think more than Nicole Kidman as an English teacher.
Yes.
Nicole Kidman is like a harder edge performer. Like she would maybe a little tougher to sell because like there's elements of this character that's kind of, she's a little bit of a whatever.
And Meg is more chill. Her presence is more chill than I think that Nicole's would have been.
Agree. Meg Ryan's a much more naturalistic actor.
Yeah.
And like that's
And I love Nicole Kidman. I'll watch anything with Nicole Kidman. I ride for Destroyer. I think that it's actually really interesting in a situation where, like,
you might be on the Destroyer episode, whenever that happens. Not a lot of Destroyer riders out there.
No, well, the thing is, like, I feel like the Destroyer situation is similar to the Meg Ryan situation with this, which, like, it's Nicole doing something that nobody really expected her to do and nobody really wanted her to do. And just really rejected her. I mean, the makeup didn't help, but just like rejected her on it. Whereas, like, yeah, this is something that you would not expect Meg Ryan to do, and I think that there's an easy rejection that comes with that. But I think that Nicole could have done it. But I also think that Nicole did Eyes Wide Shut, and that was quite enough. In, like,
right, that's right. She's sort of been in that zone recently. That's true.
The movie is better for having Meg Ryan in it from today's vantage point, but it certainly worked against the movie at the time. And I think Nicole Kidman is in general a far more stylized performer.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And I think this movie is so stylized that it helps to have someone in the center of it who's like very raw and understated and gentle.
I think that's what discombobulates people a little bit, right?
Yes.
They're like, I don't get it. Is this movie X or is it Y?
Because the movie still does have vaguely 7S aesthetics. Like it has like the color palette of a Francis Bacon painting and the weird shallow focus and the jagged editing and all these things. And then to have someone at the center of it who's not sort of steely and holding their own in this femme fatale way, I think made everyone go like, A, how dare you make us look at Meg Ryan in this light? And B, she feels miscast because she's not matching the energy of the look of the film.
And it's like, but she is, though.
Yes, absolutely.
It's just like, the thing is that when you have a kind of like noir, not everybody is going to be on the wavelength of that. And that's what's interesting, because if everybody's playing the game, then it almost kind of seems like a joke a little bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And
absolutely.
I don't know. I was thinking about like who else I could see in this role. And like, aside from Nicole Kidman, I would honestly say that like Holly Hunter could have done it.
I mean, yes.
Holly Hunter could have done this.
Holly Hunter has a similar, and the thing about Holly Hunter is that like I don't think that she had the same like confines in terms of like, what people expected from her.
People once again
she'd
might not have liked
she'd already done Crash by this point.
They wouldn't have rejected it as violently.
Yeah,
but again, that would have put it more in an art house bucket.
Yes,
this is true.
Where it probably just would have been in a different cell. But this movie probably, I don't know. This probably not going to go over that well.
Well, no. I mean, I wonder if it's just like it was a bunch of like mainstream audiences watching it and expecting what they usually expect from her. And it's like, yeah, I guess you don't really think about Meg Ryan as an art house performer.
Ding dong.
Oh my God, someone's at the door. Hello, Creek.
Hello.
Who's this?
It is I, Kraven the Hunter.
Kraven the Hunter, Spider-Man's worst enemy.
I'm not Spider-Man's worst enemy. I'm the protagonist.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Don't make me sound like a supporting character. Clearly, I could support my own movie.
I think of you as like the number 12 villain in the Spider-Man roster, but okay.
I think I'm more of an anti-hero. I think if you hold up most of the B to C tier Spider-Man villains under closer scrutiny, you will realize they're more like anti-heroes who carry their own stories.
Sound Spanish, and I'm pretty sure Kraven the Hunter is Russian.
A little bit of Dracula.
Yeah, right. Okay, well, what's up with you, Kraven? Apart from hunting.
Well, I don't know. Nothing. What else? Aside from hunting? Yeah. Nothing. I'm only about the hunting.
Okay, what are you hunting?
I'm hunting down answers.
Answers to what?
To my questions.
Oh, okay. That can be rewarding.
I've heard they can be. Usually I hunt Spider-Man.
Sure.
And I'm paid
love to do that.
in financial rewards.
Sure.
But I had heard that hunting down answers to my questions can also be rewarding.
Well, because when it comes to hiring, for example, you don't have as much time as you'd like to find great candidates with the right skills.
Right.
You're trying to find great candidates for your trophy wall.
Absolutely.
Right?
And this is the kind of narrative that could sustain the A-plot of a movie.
Right. Well, Indeed is the best hiring partner you can get.
Indeed.
Kraven. Listen.
Okay.
You're hiring, you need Indeed, because Indeed is the hiring partner where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. It's the only job site where you're guaranteed to find quality applications that meet your must-have requirements, or else, Kraven, you don't pay.
David, do you mind if I borrow your computer for a second? I want to try this out for myself.
Sure, go ahead. Clickety-clack.
I, Kraven the Hunter, am looking to fill the position of Spider-Man for my trophy. Please, Spider-Man, let me hire you to let me kill you. Put you on my wall.
Look, I mean, I know you clearly have spent hours on multiple job sites hoping to find this kind of a candidate.
And they keep on rejecting
skills.
this sort of job listing. I'm realizing maybe I should...
You should maybe finesse that a little bit.
Like a personal assistant. Maybe that's what Indeed will let me hire.
Right. Well, no matter what you're looking for, you need one powerful hiring partner that can help you do it all.
Thank you.
Indeed partners with you in every step of the hiring process. You find great talent through time-saving tools like Indeed Instant Match, assessments, and virtual interviews. With Instant Match, as soon as you sponsor a post, you get a short list of quality candidates with resumes on Indeed that match your job description, and you can invite them to apply right away. Plus, you pay only for quality applications that meet your must-have requirements. Pretty cool.
That sounds amazing. Here's another job listing I have. David, could you type this one for me? I,
Kraven the Hunter,
I'm looking for a love interest.
Oh,
now that I am a protagonist, I probably need some.
That's true.
Romance
A female
right?
lead, perhaps.
Looking for maybe like the girl for Coda. Look, maybe we could be progressive, but I think Sony's not going to get that progressive.
Okay, fair enough. Well, indeed,
let's say someone like the girl from Coda.
Sure, Emilia Jones. She's great. Well, according to ComScore, Indeed is the #1 job site worldwide. It delivers four times more hires than any other job sites combined, according to Talent Nest.
Absolutely.
So, Craven, you should join the 3 million businesses worldwide using Indeed to hire great talent fast. Start hiring right now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/check. That offer is valid through March 31st.
Hey,
so go
hunting
to
season.
Of course. So go to Indeed.com/check to claim your $75 credit before March 31st. Indeed.com/check. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire. You need Indeed, Craven.
Go see my movie. It's going to happen.
JC Shandor.
Definitely going to happen.
We love him.
We love him.
A most violent year.
That's what my year is going to be.
Sure.
Except not too violent because I'm the hero now. Look, this is one of those movies that famously got an F cinema score. And there's that argument that you could now like curate an incredible film festival, a retrospective series of just movies that got Fs from cinema score. But the thing about the F rating is that is solely reflective of audiences feeling betrayed by how the movie was marketed to them, right?
Yes, exactly.
Because you're gauging people who went to see the movie opening weekend, had that desire to go see it, and then feel like they were bamboozled or tricked in some sort of way.
That's usually what an F cinema score suggests. Yes, of
right.
course. Like, this is not the movie I was expecting.
Right. I thought I was
seeing a
fucking cool Brad Pitt crime movie, and I'm watching him do monologues about the economy collapsing. Great movie, but that's like an example. Pumped out into 2,000 screens.
Solaris, I thought this was like a sci-fi movie.
Right.
Why is everyone crying?
It does make you question, though, like, what you're saying, Jordan. People just don't want to see Meg Ryan doing this. But then you go, what did people think they were buying a ticket for? Like, I understand them being upset, but I don't understand what they thought they were seeing.
There's just some movies like that are just not, they're ahead of their time or whatever. They're not for their moment. This movie rules. It had its defenders. Speaking as a little snotty teenage defender of this movie, it had its defenders at the time. Partly, the Jane Campion factor is always huge for that.
Manola Dargis wrote a review where she was like, it's kind of the best messy movie of the year.
Yes.
Right.
But so it was not universally despised, but obviously it was not an awards contender, and the Meg Ryan thing just sort of dominated the contemporary discussion.
And then the year after this, there's what's it called? Against the Ropes, the Charles S. Dutton boxing trainer movie, where people are like, what the fuck is this? And then she sort of like is gone for 3 years.
Yeah, she
comes back, does In the Valley of Women. That movie doesn't go anywhere. Does the Women remake. Like, hasn't done anything in 7 years since directing a film. Has done, like, in the last 10 years, like 3 TV pilots that didn't go, where a couple times networks have been like, it'd be cool to save Meg Ryan, right? Like, we should reclaim her. But she just really winds down more and more after this movie.
The Women was her big commercial play. Her only big commercial play that I can remember since then, right? She was in a Curb episode once. Remember, she'll show up in something and you'll be like,
she did 4 episodes of Web Therapy, the Lisa Kudrow thing.
She was gonna be the Bob Saget of the Greta Gerwig How I Met Your Father that never went beyond the pilot.
Man, that would have been so much better than
a clever idea
than what Kim Cattrall is doing.
Right, it's Kim Cattrall.
Not only I have not seen it, but
I've seen the first 4 episodes.
It's not only that it's her voice, but you see her, right? Because they're trying not to get into the box themselves in by filming some kids and then realizing like, oh shit, these kids are going to grow up and it won't make any sense.
Well,
so you're seeing her on a couch.
You're seeing her on the couch. But I also think the thing is that like, unlike in the original, where it was very clear that the kids were going to turn out to be white, the show keeps on having Hilary Duff's like dating people who are not white.
Oh,
so
okay,
if we
that's
saw,
another right. You can't
we saw the kids,
then
when we would know.
What
even
if
though
you
I'm
shroud them in darkness, like they're on CNN or whatever,
like the blowjob scene and then the cut?
She's literally just looking at a computer screen that we can't see.
That's wild.
Fair enough.
No, but I found there were like 2 other like TV movie quote unquote credits on her IMDb that were pilots that didn't go. There was some like she's a fucking magazine editor show they tried to do. Like they've tried to do it a couple times and she just is sort of seemingly semi-retired now. Can we talk about Ruffalo a little bit?
one of the greats.
I mean, he's
Let's
like
get rough.
What a man.
So he's this
Hardcore.
like theater dude who talks about he like couldn't get hired for so fucking long, right? This sort of supporting roles in indie movies, and then just has this like insane breakthrough in You Can Count on Me, right?
Great performance.
This like great fucking movie that gets
Yeah.
Linney, who's been respected for a while, the Oscar nomination, and it's a two-hander, and everyone's like, who the fuck is this guy? And immediately everyone perks up and they're like, well, this is a new leading man.
Well, he got the Brando talk. It's that
Yes.
anytime someone shows up and gives this sort of mumbly natural performance,
Right.
and is handsome,
Right.
there's the immediate kind of like, is this sort of a Brando type?
Right, but they're like, this
you
guy's
know,
earthy, he's sexy, but he's a serious actor. He's got this interesting masculinity. So they start trying to put him in things, right? And he
Sure.
talks about he's getting courted by all these big directors. He's taking just massive meetings. He starts to get put in a couple big studio movies. And then he has this like fucking horrible health crisis.
He has a brain tumor.
He has a brain tumor. It was like they thought it was an inner ear infection. It becomes a brain tumor, and he's like out of commission for like 2 years. I guess it's right.
He has the brain tumor in 2001.
Yeah.
So it's right after You Can Count on Me.
There's a bunch of stuff he drops out of. Like he's supposed to be Joaquin Phoenix in Signs.
Yeah, right. That's the big one that I remember.
There's
that he
another
was
big movie I'm
announced
forgetting that he turns down where it like he doesn't want people to know that he's sick because it's still a time in Hollywood where people hold that against you.
I guess so.
So
Yeah,
he like sort of gets pegged with like, is this guy torpedoing his career? Why is he dropping out of all these big movies? But in reality, he fucking had a very scary experience.
He had, an operation. He was out of commission for about a year. Obviously, he has some facial paralysis, which
Right.
you can see to this day.
Things that have only made him more compelling and charming as a performer.
He was, I think, deaf in an ear for a while.
Yes.
Anyway, the whole thing is, that's an early, but this is his comeback movie, basically.
This is my exact point. So it's like the perception at the time is like, this guy torpedoed his fucking career for this. Like he dropped out of all these other movies. And this is what he's doing instead? Does he like not want to be a movie star?
Sure. And post this, he has this interesting little run of supporting roles that he's really good in. Eternal Sunshine,
Mhm.
Collateral. He's in Just Like Heaven, which he feels like kind of uncomfortable in. I feel, you know what I mean? Like, and 13 Going on 30. Like,
Well,
he's cute in 13
He's
Going on
talked
30.
about that he was just like, he wanted to like prove box office viability again by
Sure,
being
he
in
can be
hit
in a,
movies,
yeah,
right?
commercial
And
movie.
B, that everyone just said like, this is a no-go. You're never going to be considered for romantic comedies. And he sort of out of spite was like,
I'll give it a shot.
he'll give it a shot. And then he got stuck in this fucking corridor. And it's
a little
like,
bit.
he did View from the Top, 13 Going on 30, Just Like Heaven, Rumor Has It.
Yeah.
This was the period of time where my brother called Ruffalo the mailman. Because it was like, this guy used to be a great actor, and I was fucking just mailing it in, standing next to a woman
Yeah,
going
but I
like,
love-
I don't know, honey.
But see, I was always, again, snotty little guy, but
Yeah.
I was always like In the Cut, Eternal Sunshine, Collateral.
Yes.
Like these are three really weird performances, very different.
But he's
in the-
taking supporting roles
Sure, this
with
is a lead
interesting
role.
directors.
This is a lead
yes,
role.
yes.
Yeah.
I'm saying after the Collateral
Yeah,
and
yeah,
Eternal
yeah.
Sunshine. This is a lead role, yes.
Collateral is the one where I feel like people walked out of that movie not knowing he'd been in it
Right.
because he looks so different,
Yeah.
and he's not in it that much. And that, like that was just like,
Right.
Collateral.
You have
that's-
Reservation Road and We Don't Live Here Anymore, which is very middling, but him sort of doing the earnest adult drama thing.
Reservation Road was one of those movies that was sort of like, well, that's an, Joaquin, Ruffalo, Connolly
Right, that
had
must
an
be-
Oscar,
yeah.
Terry George,
Right.
and obviously, no one's ever seen that film.
No one's
He's in
ever seen that movie.
Blindness, which was another one where it's like, oh, that's the follow-up from the City of Your God, Constant Gardener guy,
Right.
Julianne Moore. That'll be big.
I would argue
Everyone's
that
blind.
despite it being a flop at the time, Zodiac was the moment where it's like, oh, he's kind of reclaiming the role that we all thought he was going to take on.
100%.
Right?
Kids Are All Right is his first Oscar nomination.
Right,
Like,
which
that's
at that
how long
point
it
is it's sort of like, oh, that feels weirdly overdue for a guy who in 2000 felt like he's about to become Edward Norton or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then for Kids Are All Right, you're like, it's funny that this was his first nomination.
He's hot
It's
in
such
that
a,
movie
like,
too.
He's very hot, but it's like he's essentially hot and charming in that movie. He's like, I did 4 days of work on it. I was in this period where I thought maybe I didn't want to act anymore. He was trying to direct. And he was like, I did like less than a week on this movie and I got this Oscar nomination and now I guess I'm back. And then he fucking gets Avengers off of that.
Pretty much. And Shutter Island. great now, in that.
Yes, there's
Mark,
a good run here. Yeah,
he rules. Do you like Ruff? Apart from
do you like to Ruffalo?
Are you a general Ruffalo fan?
I love Mark Ruffalo. I mean, part of it is that I find him to be very hot. And also I heard that his kids call him Papa, which I also find very hot.
I call my father Papa.
I just Papa. That's very just cute. There's just something hot about that. No, but I love Mark Ruffalo. He's amazing, and You Can Count on Me, which I actually saw. I saw that after In the Cut. I had never seen it. It's like
so fucking
he's so
good. Yeah.
No, I think that he's great. I think that he has it. I am very
continues to have it.
He continues to have it. He's always had it. He will always have it. And I will be very happy when I can watch him do Not a Marvel. I mean, like, he does do Not a Marvel.
I would say
like
he does a better job.
Right, is that he'll consistently do non-Marvel stuff.
Yeah.
And anytime the Marvel stuff comes up, he's like, yeah, I don't know.
He's like, yeah, I'm here, but it's like, but I can still watch like Dark Waters, and I can be like, yeah, that's my man right there.
Yeah. And I mean, and David and I talked about this, but like, in our Space Jam episode, we took stock of the fact that, like, essentially since being brought into Marvel, Don Cheadle has done 10 Marvel things and 2 Showtime series.
Right. He's kind of just doing that.
Right. Like, Don Cheadle's kind of an actor we lost to movies outside of Marvel. Now maybe he's coming back a little bit. Right. But, like, Ruffalo has sort of, like, he's kept things fairly balanced.
That twin thing he did?
No
one watched that.
No one watched that.
He got like an Emmy for it. Like,
I know.
It was a thing.
And he's now had 4 Oscar nominations?
3.
It's Foxcatcher, Kids Are All Right, and Spotlight.
They knew.
It's funny how everyone was like, Spotlight's going to get like fucking 3 Best Supporting Actor nominations. And then it was sort of like cannibalizing each other. And he was the one who got in because he has the Oscar scene.
He does have the
Oscar
Oscar
no disrespect to him, but he would be like my 4th pick out of that cast. But it speaks to, at that point, everyone was just sort of
it's
like,
a showy
Mark
performance.
And I remember at the Oscars that year when everyone's expecting Stallone and they announced Mark, I was like, they're fucking giving Ruffalo the career achievement. For that second, when they said Mark, I was like, it's Ruffalo.
No. Well, it wasn't. It was Rylance.
It wasn't. It was Mark Rylance.
Mark Ruffalo
Another
is
guy
so
had
hot.
His penis sucked on camera.
That's true.
Yeah.
Mark Ruffalo is so hot that, slipping that in on this episode, we were just
because it's a
talking
movie about blowjobs.
It is a movie that begins with a blowjob.
Yeah.
Basically. It's pretty much the first thing in the movie is Franny Avery.
Yes.
Is meeting a student. She's a high school teacher, right? Or is she like right?
Okay, wait.
I was trying to figure
it out.
I thought that it was community college.
I think it might be community college.
That's what
right.
Thought.
Yeah. Like,
that was
her students are fairly young, but they do look older than teenagers.
Right.
Yeah, Cornelius looks like...
He looks like 20.
Yeah, he looks like 20.
Okay, so she's a writing teacher, kind of, right? Like, she's an English teacher, but I feel like she has a writing, like she's a creative writing concentration. She's talking to Cornelius at a bar. I guess that's another indication that he's not 17 years old.
Right.
They're at a bar.
Yes.
And she sees this sort of, she like walks back into the back of the bar and sees like a woman sucking a guy's dick, and there's like blue fingernails, and the guy has the tattoo. Like that, those are the only details, right?
Yes.
It's all mysterious.
Shadow. Right. But this is shot like anytime they show up and see the new dead body in Seven. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, the Seven analogy is interesting.
Now, Griff.
Yeah.
You're downtown Griffey Nooms.
It is what they call me.
This is a movie that's very much centered in downtown Manhattan.
Yes, it's very much an Lower East Side.
Oh, yeah. So this bar, that's what I felt like we have to say, because this bar is like a recurring sort of like setting in the movie. Yes. It is so Lower East Side.
Yes.
Even just down to like you go to the bathroom in the basement, and they're always truly terrifying, and it looks like you're going to get murdered there.
I'll say this. The year I turned 21, I lived on 2nd Avenue and 6th Street, and I'm very glad that timed out the way it did, because I feel like at the exact moment that I could legally go to any bar I wanted to, I got the final wave of all those bars before they closed down. Mm-hmm. Like, I was just all those fucking incredibly grimy In the Cut, has someone been murdered here tonight, or people having sex in that booth bars I got before all of them got turned into fucking Citibanks.
Truly.
But yes, it is interesting to watch this movie now because it captures such a specific moment of the Lower East Side is still genuinely grimy.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I've noticed in some I really don't like reading negative reviews of movies that I like. Like I don't like that's not something that I enjoy, but I did suffer through a few of them for this one. And the way that they talked about New York is just like it's a fake kind of like 70s-esque New York, and it's like it's and I'm just like, I mean, no, not really. I mean, it's shot in a very stylized way, but it looks more like New York than a lot of movies set in New York.
I mean, we've talked about this a lot on the show. I feel like we invoke whenever we talk about sort of old New York movies or new New York movies or whatever it is. But there's this point in which I think between Seinfeld and fucking Sex and the City, the public's idea of New York radically changes.
Sure.
And New York also Giuliani's coming out and he's like, Disney Store, Times Square. And everyone's just like, New York isn't scary anymore.
Sure.
At best, the tough guys are a walk-on part in one scene and they give you business and you tell them to fuck off. And like all of New York is Magnolia Bakery now.
Well, I think that like large swaths of New York were sort of being cleaned, quote unquote, cleaned up. Right.
You have a certain amount of shows that are very selectively covering certain neighborhoods and establishments, and it starts to, as wild the mayor's getting out there and saying that he's cleaning it up. And I think it is wild that in 2003 people were like, "What is this fake, dangerous New York she created?" And
the
it's
novel,
like pretty fair representation of what New York felt like.
The novel is set in the West Village. Because it was written in the 90s.
Sure.
And Campion changed it to the Lower East Side.
Because West Village had already been totally Bradshawed at this point.
She's like the it's a little more, you know.
Yeah.
So like there's that danger she obviously wants to seek out. Ruffalo is playing, I mean, there of course, you know, like he's playing a very specific type of cop that I think, you know, he's doing the thing where he like did 100 hours shadowing these guys, these like scumbags, you know, as had Susanna Moore, like the author of the book, like she'd spent tons of time in like riding around and going to crime scenes. And like, they basically had this takeaway of like, these men are kind of doing whatever they want to do. Like, you know, it's like this, it's kind of frightening, but also undeniably they have a lot of attraction. Like they're very attractive to people because they have this kind of like, no one's fucking checking in on them.
Right.
Which is why they're like both hot and really scary. At this
movie. I mean, it's the whole fucking dynamic of this movie. And it's like in a microcosm, this movie's whole exploration of sexuality and power dynamics in general is like this weird thin line between like hot and scary. He is just so bizarrely good at both playing cops, which he's done a lot in different modes, right?
Detectives, but also like, in Collateral, right? He's this like sort of slick back
in fucking Shutter Island.
He's a federal marshal.
He's a duly appointed federal marshal. Right. But also he is incredibly good at playing New Yorkers, right?
Yeah.
Like you look at shit like Margaret, where you're just like, he really gets like New York specificity. He isn't playing some one size fits all quote unquote version.
From Wisconsin, and like I think he spent his teen years in like Virginia or whatever. He's certainly not a New Yorker at all.
And he's like a very gentle, politically pretty radical guy. And you're like,
he's always like I imagine him like riding up to me on a skateboard and asking me if I like, you know, want to sign his fracking petition.
Like very crunchy. I think his wife's name is like Sunshine. But like he's so weirdly good at playing both
Sunrise.
cops.
Had to correct you there. You were
pretty fucking close, my man. He's so weirdly good at New Yorkers and cops. And is this the only time he's played a New York cop?
I guess so.
So he's like, he's fucking bringing it all together, and he's arguably in peak hotness at this point.
I think he's so hot. Again, Jordan, we agree that he's hot, but I feel like at the time, people were like, what's this like porn stash he's got or whatever? What's this voice he's doing? You know,
these people. Listen. I don't understand what is wrong. Like this is like as a professionally horny ex-Baptist person, I truly do not understand. Everybody sounds so puritanical. It's like, oh, he's got a mustache and he's talking about eating pussy, and it's just like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like watching him eat Meg Ryan's pussy. And it's hot.
That is hot.
It's hot.
And then get on top of her and like hold her shoulder and all that. That's all super hot. But then I would say almost as hot is then him post-sex recollecting on the older lady
with
the big bush
God.
who taught him how to eat pussy and like in this like weird mix of like macho and vulnerable, you know what I mean? Like where he's like, I kind of don't want to talk about this, but you can tell like he kind of wants to talk about this.
The hottest thing for me, the thing that I don't know if I've ever seen a movie depict is like, whew, wow, that was some sex we just had here. Can we dissect the sex we just had?
Who told you how to
Right, and he's like, let me tell you about that sex we just had. And then he starts having sex with her again. And I'm like, right back into it?
The shot of him laying there naked, obviously, like, so I have the DVD which has the unrated cut, which like this movie is sort of weirdly hard to, there's no Blu-ray of it except for, as we discussed, the weird.
Do you know about this, Jordan? There's
6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon.
I have it. Right. Oh, I have it.
The weirdest set of all time.
Does that have the unrated? I didn't check. I don't
know because I also have it. I also have it on DVD.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, no, I don't know. I'd have to check. But that one is so wild because it's got Hollow Man,
Flatliners.
It's
Abandoned. It's the big picture.
Is it? Wait a second. Is it like Trapped?
Trapped. I'm sorry. I was abandoned and Trapped.
Yes, confused. I can't believe that. I used to mix up Trapped and Panic Room all the time. It's like one of them has Kevin Bacon and one of them has Jared Leto.
It is a weirdly blank checky box set.
It's wild.
Like for how disparate the films are. It
is a fairly good encompassing.
Oh, and it's got Where the Truth Lies, the Adam McGoyan.
Exactly. The threesome movie. The like what if Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra fucked you movie. That's what that movie is.
Yes. It's just bananas.
Yeah. Like exclude the big picture and swap in one more kind of horny Bacon movie.
Sure.
Like, you know, because it's not giving you like the other sides of Bacon.
Yes.
But it is a good encompassing of like, I guess they throw in like wild things,
erotic
right? Like,
Bacon. Yeah,
you know, like that would be like it's a fairly good sweep of those.
It's just wild that it's a Campion, a Verhoeven, a Schumacher, a fucking Nagoyan,
Christopher Guest.
Right.
I don't know who made Trapped.
I don't know.
I'm gonna look it up.
Jimmy Carter.
Luis Mandoki.
Oh, right. Yes.
The guy who did like Angel Eyes and he did When a Man Loves a Woman.
Okay.
Anyway.
I will say I think this is where you were going with this, David.
Yeah.
I was watching it on Netflix out of convenience.
Yeah, it's on Netflix.
The Netflix compression is so bad that I was like, I'm gonna switch over and put my disc in because I don't want to lose any dick in this.
Well, also,
like it was so crunched and the movie's so shadowy.
It is, but the American cut has a little, like it chops little bits here and there,
yes.
so you don't, right? You know, because they've got an NC-17.
I believe the Blu-ray is the unrated version, but I might be wrong.
You know, Campion's line about the NC-17 rating was, "How do you know your film's going to get past the rating? You don't know till you try." So she submitted what she submitted, and they cut out like the visible penis in the blowjob scene, they cut out a little bit of Ruffalo dick.
Yeah,
but the shot of him lying there, all casual,
very casual,
naked,
yeah.
And she's standing there and she's taking her dress off and he's like, take those off. And she shakes her head. You don't see that in Hollywood movies. Like it is, there's like a, you know, it is not just like, let's get to business. You know what I mean? Like that there's actual foreplay depicted in the movie in a non sort of goofy or scary way. Like it's not there to build the tension or there to, you know, like
it's extremely real.
It's there to emphasize his prowess, their intimacy.
Can I read this Meg Ryan quote?
Please.
So this is her at the Toronto Film Festival before the movie is declared.
The movie doesn't go over well.
Right. A class 5 health threat to the public. They're asking her about doing the sex scenes, which of course, like before the movie came out, was already the talking point, you know?
Right.
When I think people were
a lot of people do that. What are you supposed to say?
I don't know. I mean, this is one of the ultimate examples of like a Meg Ryan publicity. I mean, the Michael Parkinson interview being the most famous, where people just keep asking her, like, well, how could you do something like this?
Well, and I think with movies like this, there was always this thing of like, will the American public pay because they've always secretly wanted to see her naked?
Right.
And she was in this weird zone where it's like, no, Meg Ryan has to remain like a Cupid doll for me. She has to be. I just think the public did not want to have to engage with her as a woman with wants and needs in any way.
And she's so hot in this. Like I was told, like the way that people talk about her body in reviews, it's insane.
Really
like, what
works.
And even her face,
about?
Everyone's just like, she's too old. She shouldn't be doing this. This is embarrassing.
It just speaks to how puritanical America is because like Isabelle Huppert could do this in her fucking sleep, man. And we would all, and
once again, right? Then they're like, oh well, I know what that is.
But these are all people. Right. It's like fucking Holly Hunter did The Piano early on. Kidman did Dead Calm early on. It's like if you are able to make that part of your reputation from the beginning, people will continue to accept you doing that, and they won't accept it this late. But I also think it's this thing that I think. I think this is true of The Piano as well. I mean, several of her movies in particular, but like. She's talked about how fascinated she is by watching people who are naked because it's like there's an awkwardness to it, right?
Sure.
Of your physicality when you're that exposed. But I also think as opposed to so many nude scenes in movies that are like so composed and sort of like choreographed and all this sort of shit, she will hold on shots. So in this way, like Ruffalo, what you were saying about him just laying out fucking casually, but like Ryan too, you watch like the physics of their bodies changing as they move. Which is a thing that you realize you don't see in movies. That is like, yeah, everyone looks different sitting than they do standing up than they do lying down, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway, she's asked on the red carpet or whatever while fucking promoting this movie at Toronto about doing the nude scenes. As you said, Ben, one of these questions where it's like, what the fuck are you supposed to answer? So were you comfortable doing the nude scenes? And she's saying like, you know, she would have preferred not to do it, but like, you know, she felt like she trusted Campy and all this. And she said, I think the scenes are really good though. I think they're very honest. Jane didn't want them to be coy, so I don't think they are at all. And I love how much dialogue is in those scenes. That's what makes them really intimate.
Yeah.
Agree with that.
Absolutely.
Totally agree with that.
And we're all like agreeing the hottest fucking moment in the movie is the two of them talking in between the first two times they fuck.
But it's all pretty hot.
Oh, yeah. I think. Yes.
I also love that Kevin Bacon is in this movie.
Uncredited
in a fairly small role. And I think Kevin Bacon is so handsome, and I love him as an actor, playing the worst, least attractive guy in the world.
He's playing a text from your ex post.
The way he's styled, the way he's inexplicably shirtless a lot, the dog, everything about how he seemingly appears in the middle of a conversation he's been having with someone.
His energy is always wrong. He is so always misreading he's too light when he should be serious. He's too serious when he should be light.
He's the worst New York City boyfriend. Like he encapsulates that in some way. Like I feel like I know so many people have dated guys like
he feels like a fucking Instagram screenshot of just like, this is this insane thing this guy sent to me after one fucking Tinder date. Right? Like all of his dynamics of like threatening to put the dog down unless she takes it. And it's like, what are you talking? We don't have a relationship.
Like, oh my God, him just like walking up to random and it's like, will you have sex with me? I'm going fucking insane.
Yes. And also the idea that he was a soap opera actor who played a doctor that now is in medical school. But it's not presented as like a noble thing of like, he realized he wanted a more substantive job. It's almost like he got off on people viewing him as a doctor. He's like, oh, I should do this for fucking real.
Absolutely. You know? And this guy, like, and after like fucking Meg Ryan, it's like, okay, well, maybe I should just fuck your sister Jennifer Jason Leigh. Like, this
so
is fine.
Insane, right? And you're like, is this some weird negging move from him, or does he actually have this little tact that he doesn't think that's a fucking bananas thing to say after you've broken into this
I think
woman's
he
apartment?
has no tact, right? I do think, but like he's also, obviously, he's there as a red herring, kind of, obviously. Right. That's like, although he's so ridiculous that it's hard to think like, oh yeah, this is the guy, right? Like it would be too obvious. But I just applaud Bacon for being like, yeah, I'll do that. What, 3 scenes of me just being unpleasant, like in a funny way? Like
so
it's funny.
He loves it.
Bacon
he
crumble.
loves being unpleasant in movies, and good for him. He's very good at it.
There's the profile guide. I don't remember where it was from, but I read it. But it was in the early 90s, I think, when Tremors was coming out, about how he just made the choice where he's like, I'm 9th on the list.
Right.
I'm
never gonna hop Brad Pitt or whatever,
Tom Cruise,
like,
right? And he's like, I would rather be like the best character actor and just hand myself over to great directors and be like, I have no ego about how small the part is. I want like, I want the fucking part in A Few Good Men rather than being turned down for the Tom Cruise role. You know,
right?
Yeah.
Give me like 5th build. Let me be uncredited. I don't care what it is. Yeah. And being freed by no longer needing to like play the game of the rat race, but also like I get to play weird, unsavory characters now. And not be told that it's dinging my quote because you still need to be the guy above the title who can sell a movie with some sort of accessible movie star persona. This is, I think, the cornerstone of why he's like your favorite actor is just that pivot that is just so unconventional for someone in his position to do.
I think when I was a kid, I was obsessed with 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon.
That's the other reason the 6 Degrees things exist, because he's willing to be an ensemble guy.
But it meant that someone taught that game to me when I was little. Like there's this actor, Kevin Bacon, you may have seen him in a movie, and he's in all these movies.
Right.
And so I started to do it where I would learn what movies he was in so I could play the game.
Yeah.
But then I started watching the movies and I was like, he pops in every movie he's in, even if he's the 7th lead or he's the star. Yeah, anyway, I love Kevin Bacon.
He's very good at identifying what the most fun role for him to play would be in any film.
Yes. Anyway.
David.
Yep.
We got a new sponsor today.
We do. Sure.
We maybe don't give it as much pomp and circumstance as we do when there's a new miniseries. But we got a new sponsor and they sent us sample product.
They did?
Got it in the mail. And sometimes, I don't know about you, I'm not going to say what. Sometimes I get a box and I go, okay, and I put it in the corner. This box,
you don't tear it open, here's what you're saying. But this box.
First of all, when they emailed us and asked us, I said, yes, please.
You were excited.
This sounds like my kind of sponsor because what do I love, David?
Mm-hmm.
Cereal.
Sure.
I pretty much only eat 2 things for breakfast.
Cereal.
Bagels. Yeah. And so the question for me is, how much do I want to get out of bed? You know what I'm saying? Like the bagel requires
how much
put on
prep?
Shoes. Right, exactly.
Yeah,
or making all the ingredients or whatever. I'm feeling lazy. I want some cereal.
Yep.
Especially during the pandemic, ate a lot of cereal. And David, a lot of cereal is kind of junky.
Yeah, sure. Cereal can be very sugary.
Children's cereal doesn't make me feel like a grown-up.
Do you like milk or you don't like milk?
Okay, Ben, this is a very interesting point.
Yeah.
And I'm going to micro-target audience here, okay? Because today's sponsor, Catalina Crunch.
Yep.
They offered to send us some product.
Yep.
Their cereal comes in resealable bags.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
Now, often, I have a box of cereal. There's that bag inside. We all know this thing. You try to crumple the plastic at the end of the bag inside.
Right.
And you wonder if it's getting stale or whatever. I hate milk. I think it's gross. It's robot blood from Alien. I don't want it anywhere near my cereal. I want dry, crunchy cereal. Okay?
Sure.
Catalina Crunch, what do? Open
Eat
up
out
this
of the bag?
Eat a little bit. When I'm done, seal it back up. Boom. One element.
That's great. And you're right. It's packaged very nicely.
I don't even have to roll out of bed. I can roll the Catalina Crunch into bed and it won't spill.
And we can't get too distracted on this, but you're telling me the way you eat cereal is by the handful,
by the handful,
a bowl
in
and
bed.
A spoon with milk.
Correct.
Okay, continue with the read.
I know this doesn't apply to anyone, but if anyone else feels the same way as me, I'm saying the form factor of Catalina Crunch is great for sickos like me.
And here's some other things about Catalina Crunch.
Please.
Apart from the fact that it tastes great.
It does.
It's 0 sugar.
It truly does. Because, look, here's the thing that had me raising my eyebrows. I'm like, you tell me you're making a healthier version of the thing I like.
Sure.
Is this not going to taste as good? Okay?
Uh-huh.
And I'm ripping into this, and they got flavors I like. They got like a sort of like a cinnamon flavored.
Mm-hmm. They got chocolate peanut butter.
Yes.
What do they got? They've got
chocolate
honey
banana.
graham. Yep, chocolate banana, cinnamon
these
toast,
are the
mint
4
chocolate chip.
varietals I've tried.
Yeah, they've got 8 total, I think.
I like all of them. There's a fruity, I believe I haven't had yet.
Yeah, there is a fruity one, but it's 0 sugar. It's keto friendly. It's low carb. There's lots of great flavors, and you can get variety packs, so you can give them all a try.
Sure. And look, they're letting.
You can add milk. You can eat as is. You can eat them with yogurt.
You can do these things.
These are all things you can do. Look, it's absolutely delicious.
Yes.
Most 0 sugar food doesn't taste delicious, but Catalina Crunch does taste pretty good.
Here's another thing I want to say from personal experience. They sent 2 bags. I ripped through them. I had a great time.
So
I went to the grocery store. I bought some more. Okay. Now here's where I'm going to be super honest. It's more expensive than your standard cereal.
Sure.
It rung up at the cash register higher than I thought it would.
Okay.
It's actually far more prudent to order Catalina Crunch from their website.
Oh, sure.
I learned this firsthand. The price difference is pretty significant.
Well, listen, maybe that's because it has a whopping 11 grams of plant-based protein and 9 grams of fiber per serving.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because it's gluten-free, grain-free, and non-GMO with real clean ingredients that's not artificial.
But you can get packs. You can
I know what you're
get
saying.
6 of the kind you like. You can get a variety pack. You can get a subscription where it's going to get shipped to you every whatever.
You want me to call to action, so I will.
Sure.
Just go to CatalinaCrunch.com/check for 15% off your first order plus free shipping. That's CatalinaCrunch.com/check. And if you're not sure what flavor to start with, you can try a variety pack. Like
great
Griffin's saying.
Place to start. But I like every flavor I've tried so far. I genuinely like this stuff a lot.
You can also check out their delicious cookies and snack mixes while you're at it.
Haven't tried those. Can't speak for them.
Fair enough. Well,
Probably good.
Still pitching this.
Just trying to be honest. Radical transparency.
That's CatalinaCrunch.com/check for your 15% off your first order plus free shipping. That's it.
That's it.
So she sees this Beej in a bar.
Mm-hmm. While she's there with her student.
Yeah. While she's there with her student, it's sort of thrilling and frightening.
Right.
And then not long after, there's a murder, and a limb gets dumped in her garden. And a cop shows up.
Kevin Bacon's also just sort of hanging out.
Kevin Bacon's hanging out. It's hot outside. Right. She's seeing subway poetry and writing it down.
Yeah, that's
trying to think of like some of the elements that are floating in the air. Like, this is one reason this movie discombobulated people, I think.
Yes.
Like, as much as it is a murder mystery and a sex thriller,
it
doesn't proceed like with total narrative ordinariness.
No. And our friend, Raisin Tori, friend of the podcast, worked on this movie as like a intern PA in the art department.
Yeah.
And said like she had like a fucking 300-page lookbook for this movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
That he was just kind of obsessed with and had never seen someone who had sort of that depth of sort of like sort of visual vision for a movie. And that the thing was where so many lookbooks are like, here are other shots from movies that this is going to be like, because there's so much trying to frame to other people. Like, here are things you know can be done in this medium or to sell to people. Like, it'll be like this other movie, you know. Her lookbook was like all different types of art, like so many different weird influences.
Right.
That she's throwing so much shit in the pot here stylistically. I think that's confusing to people. But yes, I mean, it's just like reading the Wikipedia synopsis, the plot synopsis of this movie. Where the fuck was this? It's one of those things where once again I step back and I'm like, I understand why some people think this movie is weird. Paragraph 2 is like, it's like, you know, she stands there watching, and though it's dark, can see a 3 of spades tattoo on the man's wrist and the woman's blue fingernails. That's, you know, opening paragraph, setting up the movie, erotic thriller, normal. Paragraph 2. Periodically, as she rides the subway, Franny reads poems that appear on posters in the subway cars, which seem to have bearing on her own life. New paragraph. Several days later, Detective Giovanni Malloy. You're like, right, that's a whole fucking element in this thing.
It's a good element.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the subway poetry. I also just love it when the subway looks like the fucking subway.
It's the real subway.
Like, yeah.
Stolen shots as opposed to sort of
exactly.
a fake commission car.
Right. And it's like that weird sense of New York is she's like searching for inspiration in various areas of her life. New York is this kind of bubbling cauldron.
Yeah.
And like subway poetry is funny because it can be very profound.
Yes.
It's also super mundane.
Right.
Like, it's just, you know, on a subway car.
I feel like it's disappeared a little bit.
I know, I miss it. It's still
around.
You know, they still have
right.
it.
It was like by the MTA.
Now everything on the subway is just wear your mask.
Right.
You know, like, but
it was poetry in motion.
Mm-hmm.
And you just have poems that would get swapped out every 6 months on subway cars.
I love it.
Yeah.
Again, just whatever.
Next, like sandwiched in between Dr. Zizmore ads.
You will.
Could we talk a little bit about Jennifer Jason Leigh?
Yes.
One of my favorite people. She's another one who is just like, no, I don't need to be a leading lady.
Absolutely.
Yes,
I will do this. This is interesting.
I will do single white female, and I will kill. She's so good at that.
She's incredible in that movie. Obviously.
And
that is a high point commercially for her, I feel like, right?
Yeah. That was definitely
the closest maybe she ever came to like having a movie star thing, right?
Yeah,
that could have been like quantified and replicated.
I guess. I mean, there's the Fast Times, you know, the early.
Oh yeah,
which I feel like we both would have.
She was great in that movie.
Fucking given her an Oscar nomination that year.
But
right?
at this point, yeah, like what's Jennifer Jason Leigh up to? She did like the anniversary party,
right? Road to Perdition.
Didn't that? Yeah,
is the year before this?
Right. I guess she had that hot '90s, or like where she's in like Georgia and Mrs. Parker and the Vicious, like, right? Where she's in like these talky, interesting indie
That's the
movies,
period where critics are like, "Is she the best actress in America?" Like,
definitely.
And I think a lot of it was just also her choices,
and
her representing different types of women who weren't in movies. She sort of came synonymous with that idea. Yeah.
In this, she is she's Meg Ryan's chaotic sister, I guess is the best way to put it, right? I don't know.
Yeah, man, I love her. And I love how casually they talk about her antics. That
she's got good antics.
She's just fucking this married doctor, stealing his suits from the dry cleaners. Then, like, she just casually is just like, oh yeah, I gotta go to court. There's a restraining order.
She's a more gentle sweetie.
Yeah.
Yes. And like, but there's an appeal to Franny, like, right? Yes. Like, they again, this is sort of like a side of her that she's not unlocking, Meg Ryan's character.
But also, once again, it's like Jennifer Jason Leigh is comfortable in this milieu. If you're an audience member watching this movie, you're like, yeah, Jennifer Jason Leigh fits into this universe.
Yes.
Right? She makes sense. I accept her in these images. I think it's part of what they're calling out, that it's like, Meg Ryan is aware of this world existing. And she has been adjacent,
sort of on the outside,
but at arm's length. You saw Patrice O'Neill.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
love him.
Nice to see him.
Great use of Patrice O'Neill here.
Locked in, I would say.
Yes.
And
he's so good that you forget that it's him.
You do. You kind of every time you're like, I forgot he's in this.
Yeah.
Like, that's a real club. That club that she lives above. That was on Church Street and like White. You know, right by the Tombs, right by the prison.
Yeah.
David looked at me, by the way, just for the listener at home. Continue.
Have you been to the Tombs?
No.
Okay. I've been to the Tombs.
I know you have. Yes, I know. It's been discussed, I feel like.
Baby.
But that weird sort of no zone. It's still a weird area of New York between Canal Street and Chambers Street.
Yes.
Where there's the prison and the courts, so there's a lot of like bail bondsmen.
And there's like the on-ramps to the two bridges.
Yeah, it's just a bit of an odd area. Anyway, so like that's
weird.
that area.
Center Street.
There's like a lot of jewelry places.
Yeah,
like the Fringe of Chinatown.
Fringe of China. There's some good Vietnamese places on White Street. Still are. But anyway, so like that's where that is. That's where she lives. Anyway, so she's got the chaotic sister, and this cop comes and questions her, and he's got a creepy partner, played by Nick D'Amici. I don't know that guy.
He is mostly known as a screenwriter now. He like co-wrote all of Jim Mickles' movies, and he's the star of the Stakeland movies.
Yeah, not a series I know.
He's
like genre stuff, right? Yeah. He made that movie. He wrote that movie Bushwick. That's like, is it a one take movie? Right? It's like the Dave Bautista.
No, you're confusing. It's a Survive the Night movie, but it's not a one take movie.
Oh,
I think it was one take. Anyway, but yeah, but it's right. It's like.
Yeah,
it's called Bushwick, but it's like a genre movie with like zombies or something, right? Invasion of aliens,
apocalyptic threat, and he's got to get her across. It's funny. It's almost like a Children of Men sort of thing. But yeah, Jim Mickles like a good direct. Cold in July. We are. This dude wrote all of those movies.
Well, he's here, but anyway, like. Is it that like he asks her out and she kind of rebuffs him, and then when she gets attacked on the street and hit by the car, that's when she has him over, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's another interesting thing this movie does, that her like bruises develop over time.
Sure. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like she comes out of the car accident with the scrape on the cheek, and then the next day she wakes up and she has the black eye.
One thing about the attack sequence, there is a horrible fake scream. Like canned scream.
Is it a Wilhelm?
It might as well be. You're like referencing some like really old scream.
There's a famous scream that like everyone fucking uses, and it went from just being like, oh, it's an easy royalty-free stock scream, and now it's like an in-joke with directors sometimes, or editors or whatever, sound mixers. Well, but it's like a
we'll put it in.
Star Wars uses it like whenever a fucking stormtrooper falls or whatever.
Sure, no, you're hearing it right now. Yeah.
But I assume she's being attacked by. Look, spoiler alert: his partner is the killer in this movie.
Yes,
is
David, he come on. What
is he attacking her there? Like, is it happening right then?
So the way in which the killer is deployed in this movie is so wild to me, because like now that I've seen it so many times, I realize, that's absolutely him getting his dick sucked in the beginning.
Yes,
and it is absolutely him. There's the scene in the coffee shop where Jennifer Jason Leigh and Meg Ryan are like talking, and there's a table behind them, and he's just sitting there.
Wow,
for like
that's interesting.
You miss him in the he sits there and he listens for as long as he needs to, gets the information that he needs. Like I think he needs to know where she's staying or something, and then like we cut away and we cut back, and the table that he was sitting at is empty. But yes, no, he's in there.
It's funny. So the tattoo is some kind of cop brotherhood thing. Like, it's not to do with him being a serial killer.
Right.
That's just that fucking cops and firefighters are always getting these like specific tattoos. We're the
kinship.
That's why he's the red. Mark Ruffalo's the red hair.
But it's funny.
But I do think that is him that attacks her because he's trying to figure out how to like he's just so you find out that he's just been following her throughout this movie.
Right. It's been happening.
Like, he's such an openly misogynistic, loud, unpleasant
he like tried to kill his wife or something.
He tried to kill his wife because she threw out a statue that he like won for some kind of like Latino kind of statue. I'm not really
like
sure.
So whatever. Some award.
But like
funny. Like so he doesn't get a gun, and I'm like, oh great, he's still a cop. He just doesn't get a gun.
This is the funny thing though. Like this movie is playing on our relationship to watching thrillers like that, like this, in the sense that like you're like, who could it be? Ruffalo, this tender man with a sort of dark aggression to him, right?
Right.
And then like, or like Kevin Bacon, this fucking like oddball creep who sometimes explodes with temper and has boundary issues.
I mean, for Campion to have Bacon in her movie and not show his dick, the restraint. I'm almost offended.
To not put a strip on the pan and let it sizzle. But this guy, Nick D'Amici, you look at him and you're like, well, it's not this guy. It's too obvious.
Right.
Like, this guy's just like, this guy sucks. He's a fucking wife beater. He's an asshole. He's a misogynist. They took his gun away.
He's the one who's
he
there.
Wouldn't be the killer because he's already too awful.
But he's also the contrast where it's like, oh yeah, like Ruffalo's character might be rough around the edges, but he's sensitive, and that's interesting.
Right.
Or
you're
whatever,
just like, if a guy is this coded up front of being like a problem, then you're like, well, he's not the killer because then there's no mystery here.
Well, yeah, exactly. And then she gets accosted. She gets hit by a cab and fleeing, goes back to her apartment.
Cab says, I didn't hit you.
Oh man, I love that.
So realistic.
He's just like, I didn't hit you. I didn't do anything wrong, but I'll give you a ride home.
You hit me.
Right. Really, we're equal forces here. Yeah. She goes home and she, does order the best medicine you can get after a bad night out.
A dicking from Ruffalo?
Yeah, just like a fucking night with Ruffalo. Yeah. And they have this very steamy, like, we just talked about it. It's great. It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so hot. The foreplay is hot. The sex itself is also hot. Like, I appreciate that.
Yes.
It is distinct hotness to both. And then to
they had that conversation afterwards where it's like, I think I've never been with a man. Every man I'm with tells me what he wants and how to do it.
Right.
And I don't think I've ever been with someone who's like asked the same of me or whatever it is. I'm fucking paraphrasing poorly. You know what I'm saying?
And she's finally got a story for her sister too, because her sister's always the one with the stories.
Who knows if the lunatics submitting IMDb trivia can be trusted? But here are two stats that are here listed under spoilers that I find interesting. Franny, Meg Ryan, spends 40% of the film in her underwear and nude.
I don't know if that's true.
Detective
that seems not true.
Malloy, Mark Ruffalo, spends 20% of the film.
Where are these numbers coming from?
I don't know.
That's not true. But she's certainly naked in the movie playing, which is great.
Yes.
Nudity is great.
Who is doing clothes math?
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I don't know.
That's the creep.
People on IMDb just that's a wild place. I'm glad that the message boards don't exist anymore.
As Campion says,
I'm sorry. I'm just checking who submitted this fact. It's Detective Richie Rodriguez.
All right. As Campion says,
it's the character.
He's the character.
Okay. I'm joking that he's an IMDb user, which he is the sick fuck. I bet
as
he does
Campion says. Stop. Hush.
Dr. Chase Meridian, because she chases Batman.
He's not blindly fumbling in there. He's working his way to pleasuring her. He's paying attention. To be paid attention to is a really beautiful feeling. Obviously, to have movies with that kind of intimate sex. Because like with Basic Instinct, I love Basic Instinct.
Yes.
But the undertone of every sex scene of Basic Instinct is she about to murder him? Right. Like, or whatever. Like, is this about to go over some
Everything's
crazy
so
edge?
over. I mean, it's like the sex in Basic Instinct is like a parody of sex.
100%.
It's like the fucking sex scene from Hot Shots Part 2.
It's like, I mean, obviously it was directed by the great Paul Verhoeven, but sometimes it feels like it was directed by like a glittering diamond or whatever, like something where you're just like the fakest thing, you know?
Right.
In the cut, the sex is very intimate and real, and then it's like, okay, back to my murder case where someone is like cutting heads off of women and like putting them in plastic bags and like this like really, and like putting a ring on them, you know, like there's this whole serial killer
what's the term
pattern.
She asks him, not dismembered, but he uses a term.
He uses
disarticulated.
Yes, that is it.
Yeah, there's something about that.
And like, you know, later there's that thing where he's cutting through the esophagus, the epiglottis, the tongue, like he's cutting on it. This guy likes blood, and I think that stuff is really good in this movie because he's not saying it in that kind of whatever, you know, cop with a cigarette hanging out of his mouth, like steam rising, super dramatic. He's saying it in a more mundane
matter of
way.
fact. Well, and it's that's what's scary is for a guy like this, how you can become desensitized to this, and this is a job. Yeah, he's able to look at it and clinically go, I understand what's going on here, and that makes her go, is he a sociopath?
That's what the Susanna Moore said about her experiences shadowing the detectives. Like, it's different from a beat cop where you're like, you know, the detectives, it's like, she's like, it's no way to live. You're only visiting these fucking insane crime scenes that are so ghastly.
Right.
Yeah.
And like, so obviously you have to turn parts of your brain off, right? Like, you know, like just to deal with it.
I mean, everyone makes fun of the sort of like Ice-T meme of like, you're telling me that this where he's been on the case
right. He's been 20 years.
But I truly think
some guy likes to diddle himself thinking about cupcakes, you know, that whole thing.
I truly believe that is because it is harder to relate to a character who's like, oh yeah, one of these.
Yeah,
versus like that insane. Guy who's still just like, this fucking makes me angry and I'm perplexed.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, this is a dude with kids. This is a dude with an ex-wife. He's got
sleeps on the couch.
Sleeps on the couch.
Right.
Like, he can't just go into work every day and put his whole heart into it. Like, it's just, he's got other shit to do.
No, but also you do anything long enough and it's like, it becomes the reality of your life.
Yeah.
You know?
A part later in the movie when Meg Ryan is like, you were thinking about like this ghastly murder while we were just sleeping together. He's like, it's on my mind all the time. Like, it's just a reality for him. Like, even she is like, that is sick, man.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, no.
It's like at any point in time, you can ask me, I'm thinking about opening quotes, you know? It's my job. I'm on the time.
Of course. Right. 24/7.
It's not like I just like struggle to pull up an opening quote 5 minutes after we agreed to start recording the episode. I'm thinking about it all the time.
I'm sort of looking through the dossier to see if there's just so much. Meg Ryan just clearly loved making this movie, loved working with Jane Campion, loved doing something different.
I think
she's
like,
very positive.
Here we go. Here's my bridge to the next stage of my career. And everyone's like, bridge has been shut down. Chris Christie's come in. He's fucking exploded this.
It's so wild because, like, you know, I feel like when we have like filmmakers like Jane Campion, these female filmmakers who are like, you know, really trying to go for something different, really trying to give actresses something else to do, and they get so excited to work with them, and then everybody acts so fucking weird. Like, why are you doing? It's because this is a job. Like, it's like I would get bored doing the same thing over and over again. And like, as a person who's finally met Jane Campion, the moment that I met her, I was just like, I want you in my life.
Yes, it is just kind of astonishing that the piano worked so well.
Sure.
And the Holly Hunter casting in piano, which seems in many ways as bug nuts, looking at where her career was at that point, as this just totally fucking worked for everyone.
Yeah.
It's like this bizarre thing where someone makes like an entire career of movies that are all very much of a piece, even if they're tonally, stylistically different. And one time everyone's like, yes, we all can get behind this. And the other time people are like, what the fuck are you doing? You know?
Absolutely. I want to say something else about the sex scenes here that is so good.
Please.
Apparently during the filming, Campion would just be shouting things at Ruffalo like, you're not at school anymore. You know what you're doing. Like, she was really trying to get him in the headspace of like, no, you know, total confidence, please.
I I love it.
And Ruffalo's response is, it was very stressful. I was really scared. And Meg was currently dating Russell Crowe. And I was like, am I going to be like, like, what does she think of me? Like, so it's interesting to think that he was so self-conscious in these scenes where he's oozing confidence.
Yeah. Like, it's unbelievable. Right.
But anyway, sorry. But yeah, the thing with that you're talking about is the Ryan casting, in my opinion, is a total success.
Correct.
But in terms of how the movie went over at the time, it was not. And that's right. And it's funny because the piano could have gone that way and it didn't.
I think it is one of her greatest skills is being really smart about using the baggage of her stars in interesting ways, right? Like playing with the expectations of what these people doing. Like that's like the most effective element in Power of the Dog. Movie we'll obviously cover soon, but where you're just like, is he miscast?
Right.
Like you're watching it the whole time being like, he's almost pulling this off, but why would you hire him to do this?
I think
and then the movie like totally warps your brain around that and it's like, oh, that's the whole fucking point. Right. And I think Piano does similar thing. Holy Smoke does similar. Anyway.
These are incredible quotes from Ruffalo. Ruffalo might be the great one. Might be the best.
I mean,
one.
I adore him.
He's talking about the method acting, right? Sure. He's like, people use it as a shield. It shields them from being vulnerable. I hear all these young actors who are like, I'm method. I'm going to go live in the house. I'm going to, it kills spontaneity. They'll give a good performance, but they're not playing with the other actors. It's all about them.
Yeah.
Spontaneity and vulnerability are gold on screen and stage. They're fucking magic. When Brando reaches down and picks up the glove and puts it on his hand, which is an improvised moment on the waterfront, that's magic. I appreciate Brando. In a way, he's ideal. But the opposite, this is what I love. Mm-hmm. The opposite end of the spectrum is Marcello Mastroianni, who had a lightness of being, a joy in his acting, wasn't precious about it. He did good movies and bad movies. He's bad in some, he's great in others. Yeah. He has a sense of humor. He loved life. People had a good time around him. I like his career better. My style would be one foot in the grave and the other on a banana peel.
Yeah, he fucking rolls.
That's the line where I was like, come on.
He's the goat.
No, it's one foot on the banana peel.
There is a bizarre lightness of touch to Ruffalo in whatever he's doing, whether the role is heavy or not. So easy for
this to be the hackiest shit, this role.
Absolutely.
I'm the fucking tough cop. You don't mess with me, suck my dick.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, but also I'm the king of cock.
That was my audition.
Yes.
Campion left me out of the room.
You did not get a call back.
17-year-old dude. Hey, I'm a tough cop.
Yeah.
Can you grow a mustache? No, I can't.
Why are you so tall? What was the thing I was going to say about the rough man? I don't know. Yes, it's fascinating. There's the moment. This is what I was going to say. There's the moment in You Can Count on Me, and I haven't seen the movie in embarrassingly long.
I haven't seen it in a long time. I've been meaning to rewatch that one. Yeah.
Lonergan's one of those guys where, like, if he ever does another fucking movie, we might just be like, fuck it. 4-episode Lonergan series done. We got to do it.
Absolutely.
Because he's probably my favorite living dramatic writer. But there's the moment You Can Count on Me, and Jourdain, if you've seen this more recently, correct me if I'm getting this wrong. We're like in the middle of like a fucking monologue scene with Laura Linney. Like a bug comes into frame, and he or like a butterfly or something, and he holds his hand out and like catches it on his hand and keeps on talking. And it's like the exact thing you're talking about, or that he's talking about in that quote, which is like, here's my big dramatic moment. Now there's a bug in frame. Like, rather than like try to ignore this or like go like the take is fucking blown, he just worked it into what he was doing. You know?
Cool. I do not remember that. I'm going to look out for it now.
I've heard a lot of fucking actor friends of mine cite that as just like, that's the moment I realized this was the fucking guy. And I would like to have one moment like that in my entire career. Where you're just, it's such a state, like Zen state of flow, like comfort with the material, but also open to any spontaneity that happens, you know?
So
he rules. He's got a nice penis.
He's got a great dick.
Yeah, fantastic dick.
Wait a sec. You guys hear that?
What's up?
I thought it was the doorbell ringing, but it's not. Ben, that's some other sound. Do you hear that?
Yeah, it sounds like a chain.
No, but there's almost like something. There's like another. It's like a chain might give you a ching. Ooh. That's what that sound is. The cha-ching.
Oh, it's the cash
register. Of
the
register. I thought it was. Ben does have a chain hanging from his wall now.
He does.
It is home decor, but it wasn't the chain rustling in the wind. It was the cha-ching of a cash register.
Yes, that's the sound of another sale. On Shopify, the all-in-one commerce platform to start, run, and grow your business. We use them.
Yes.
We use Shopify.
We do. We have a Shopify page that is going to be linked to our about to launch Blank Check website, blankcheckpod.com. So it's going to be easier to find that. You can buy items like the enamel pins, the two-friend hat, our Talking the Walk bundle, which includes the long-awaited Spreadmaster spatula. These are all things that we sell through Shopify, and it makes our lives a lot easier. It makes it easier to get those products to you.
That's true, because Shopify gives entrepreneurs the resources once reserved for big businesses. So upstarts, startups, and established businesses alike can sell everywhere, synchronize online and in-person sales, and effortlessly stay informed.
It really does just make it so accessible. There's so many features. It just has such a clean design. It's really user-friendly. It's a great service.
You can reach customers online across all the social networks. You can integrate Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, and more.
Yeah.
You can obviously use it for in-person stuff along with, online if you want to synchronize all of that.
But also, I like that so many different, creators I like, people I buy products from, especially a lot of like sort of craftspeople who are making bespoke things, right? Will use Shopify for their storefront. So it's like I got the one login that uses so many of these, but I don't have to create a new username, new password for all these different things,
Yep.
Absolutely. But listen, if you go to shopify.com/check, all lowercase, you're going to get a free 14-day trial and get full access to Shopify's entire suite of features. You can grow your business with Shopify today. Go to shopify.com/check right now. Yeah. Shopify.com/check.
That's it.
We use them. They're great.
We use them. We're good. Check out our
Shopify page. Exactly.
And if you bought merch for us, then you use them too.
Another person gets murdered. Their head's in a washing machine.
Right. This is number 2.
Very gross.
Love that scene, though.
Scene is so good. Love how it looks. This film shot by Dion Beebe, by the way, one of the heroes of the 2000s. He shot Collateral. He shot Miami Vice.
Right. He defines the Michael Mann digital look. Yeah.
Right. I feel like he did Gemini Man recently, but he hasn't done a lot of work recently. But he's Rob Marshall's guy, so he's shooting Little Mermaid.
Great.
Anyway, but
what if Little Mermaid looks like Collateral?
or like in The Cut?
Yeah.
I would love that.
And then there's that scene where he takes her and he's like shooting at the garbage bags in the water, and then she's a good shot.
Date.
Like, wanna go shoot some garbage?
Yeah, go drive down an abandoned road, shoot at some garbage in a lake.
Ben took out his notepad and wrote down proposal ideas. Watching this movie.
And then they just like kiss on the hood of the car.
Is ring in garbage bag or on gun?
I mean, obviously that scene again is sort of supposed to, I guess, be red herringy, and then it's like, oh, is he like taking her to an abandoned spot? Is this dangerous?
Well, you're
taking out his gun.
Like, is this guy hiding something? You're like, no, this guy's like pretty transparent.
Right.
He's
this
like,
is just what this guy wants to be doing right now. Yeah.
Right. He's in a pretty comfortable state with himself. I mean, even just the scene with the wife thing, she keeps on being like, look, we both know it. You're fucking married and cheating on your wife with me. He's like, no, I sleep on her couch because I couldn't afford to move out. My mom fucking drives me crazy and I like seeing the kids.
Yeah.
And she just keeps on assuming that he's like fucking misrepresenting
there's something else
to her.
Right. Like there must be something else going on.
Yeah.
You've got Cornelius, her student, like does he get arrested or he just gets like hauled in?
He gets brought in for questioning.
Because he like wrote something in blood?
There's the point where he
keeps like saying John Wayne Gacy was innocent or whatever. Like
the John Wayne Gacy thing is so funny because like it's very
some
clear
hot take
that it's supposed to be something where, I mean, I wrote about this in my review, just this idea of like men making excuses for each other, being fascinated by each other is like, oh, but he must have thought, in the idea that like if a man is very violent, it's because he lost control and not because he like intended to. And there's all of that subtext. But it also just like seems like, and I don't know if Cornelius was black in the book because I have not read the book, but it just almost just seems like, yeah, brothers, they have like conspiracy theories. It felt very like, I don't know. It was a really interesting way to have. I mean, him being into conspiracy theories makes sense, especially because it's like clear that he's not actually a violent person. He's just weird.
Right. Sure. He's odd. Right. Yeah. That's the thing. But he's being read as, well, you must be a suspect because he's weird.
Well, this is part of the movie is just like all men are kind of weird and kind of threatening in some way or another.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Bacon's character being the most like nakedly threatening, but also the least actually threatening, probably.
Right. And Cornelius still gets like, because when he shows up at her place, like near the end, and he like has like it's clear that he'd been punched and he'd been punched by
the cops have beat him up, right?
Because there's the earlier moment, right, where they show her like sort of the contact sheet of all the possible suspects, and you see for the first time that like 85% of the suspects are young black men, and you're just sort of like, okay, so these guys are getting targeted. When he shows up with the black eye, you could just immediately put one and one together.
Oh yeah, I mean, he says specifically, it is Ruffalo's partner who does that.
But I'm saying even before he says it, you're just like, I know exactly what the fuck happens here. Right. He fits the profile that they're fucking looking for. And the atom he's trying to split is John Wayne Gacy is innocent because it was his desire that made him kill those people. So the desire is guilty. And you're just like, what the fuck are you He's not responsible for his feelings because his feelings took over.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that that's so much of like the underlying critique of this film is that men are like acting on their impulses.
And you can't hold them responsible for that. Men just have urges.
Right, yeah.
That's like the argument that men keep on making in this movie to her. And then he does this fucking extra fucking graphic design on his essay where he like puts MS Paint blood spatter on it. So they see that and it's like red flag out the butt. But then, as you were saying, Jordan, when he shows up at her place and she just sort of like puts the brakes on it, right? Like reciprocating his advances at first. They're kissing. She's taking her shirt off. And then she's like, I'm drunk. I'm traumatized. I can't handle this. He immediately goes into, fuck you. I don't want to sleep with you. How dare you turn me down? I'd never fuck you. So many of the conversations in this movie truly just, I know I'm repeating myself here, feel like Tinder correspondences that people post.
I know what you're saying. Right. Obviously, also what happens is her sister gets her head cut off as well. That's happening in the third act of the film.
She gets disarticulated.
She gets all chopped up. And
Meg Ryan, I mean, walks in. What's the thing she sees first?
Well, she sees like there's blood all over like the boiler, remember, in the bathroom or whatever. Like it's that shot of her opening the doors and there's like steam coming out of the bathroom.
I feel like I'm forgetting, but there's
a little piece of hair on the bed.
Oh, that's what.
Oh yeah, right.
So she's the little piece of hair on the bed, but otherwise the apartment looks kind of fine. But then she's already sort of like ready for.
She knows.
Well, and you sort of realize it too. Because it's not being shot that way, but you're like, wait, we're about to enter a crime scene.
Right. And then the bathroom is just a fucking nightmare, and her head is in
she's all
garbage.
She's
bag
all dead
in the bath, and Meg Ryan just cradles the head and cries obsessively. And Ruffalo has to come in and be like, you have to give the fucking disembodied head back.
And then I guess it's not long after that. That's
where he explains how. Right.
She
demands, "Tell me how this happened," and he gets into too much detail.
He does. I mean, he's desensitized or whatever. Or is he a sociopath? As she wonders, so she locks him to her to a pipe in her apartment.
Right. Well, because first
is there's the murder.
Right.
There's Cornelius confronting her. But
the scene where she fucks him, where he's like, "I want to watch you fuck me."
Right.
Is that when she handcuffs him? At the
that's when
and then she just leaves.
And then afterwards she handcuffs him. She asks him about the tattoo.
Yes.
And she's completely discombobulated when she, gets basically picked up by Rodriguez, and he takes her to the Little Red Lighthouse.
I mean, this is a point where I think people who are already out in this movie go like, this is absurd. What the fuck is happening? Why is she literally going to the lighthouse? Why is she following this guy?
It's so good, though.
Yes.
The Little Red Lighthouse is one of the great, New York City locations. It's never been used well in a movie. I love that Jane Campion's like, let's just finish that, everything there.
Sure.
And it's a great motif.
Weird villain headquarters.
Yeah, that's where he wants to. What does he want to do? Like, doesn't he want to? give her food or something, like, or
he says, I'm probably gonna have to keep you here for a couple weeks because people saw me leaving with you.
But they, and he's doing the "Will you marry me" thing.
Oh
with the
yeah,
ring.
he's got like wine and he's like
the
playing
wine. That's
music.
Right.
And then
swishing around.
And then he just like has the knife with the engagement ring on it.
Yeah.
Just like put on the fucking ring. it's wonderful.
There's also, we should mention, I mean, the running thing of the sort of ice skating flashback.
I love that shit.
Oh man, yes, it's so good. Love the whole like silent film aesthetic of it.
Right. This entirely artificial idea of this like very sanitized chivalry and sort of courtship.
And all the details of it are so absurd that they met and 15 minutes later were engaged.
Right, it's something out of a fucking 40s movie.
But actually, really, he's been married 5 times.
Right.
Like they're half sisters.
Yes.
Like you find out like so much more about who this guy
it's
really
like
was.
a fucking fantasy that they grew up on that I think Meg Ryan has spent her life hoping she could replicate in her life, that she could experience a Meg Ryan movie plot, right? Like she wishes she had had a Meg Ryan rom-com romance, but just Campion's choice to frame that in this very stylized, artificial way just like makes it clear like just how much of an impossible ideal this is.
But the more important thing is her going back to Ruffalo in that final shot of them when he's still handcuffed.
Oh man,
it's such a great way to. It's such a good mic drop.
Yeah, and well, he's also like he's been trying to like get his hand free, so he's like, and it was like connected to like a water pipe, so there's also like water everywhere. It's so good.
This is a movie where you expect when she goes to the lighthouse that you're gonna think she's about to be killed, and then a shot comes from somewhere, and you see Mark Ruffalo there, and he's like yanked the fucking heater out. And he's made it there somehow in like record time and saved her ass. And instead, he's just still there, locked up, and she figures out her own shit.
I love it. And it absolutely probably sends you out with just like question mark.
F, stamp.
I totally get it. And I remember seeing it at the time, and it was one of those things of like, kind of like I talked about AI, right? That, like movies like that at the era where I walked out and I was like, well, I know that wasn't, that was messy, or like that didn't follow like the normal parameters of
That's not
I'm
what
learning is a good movie
out of this. Yeah.
So like I would be like, but it's underrated and it's interesting and it's like a 4 out of 5. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like back when I was a teenager and I lacked the courage
of convictions. Yes.
Courage of my convictions.
Yeah.
Because that's the year, obviously, of like Lord of the Rings,
Hulk,
sweeping, Hulk, yeah, sure.
Hulk.
But it's also like Lost in Translation is sort of the indie sensation of the year.
Cold
Kill
Mountain,
Bill,
Finding Nemo, Matrix sequels,
the Matrix sequels. Another thing where I had to discover the courage of my convictions.
Right,
Mystic River
and Elf are sort of like that's now officially the next wave of comedy. Anointed,
Pirates of the Caribbean obviously is the big summer movie.
Right,
Master and Commander is the big prestige movie.
Right,
big boat movie of the year. Elephant wins the Palme d'Or.
Fog, sure.
It's a very interesting, exciting year in cinema, in my opinion. But this is absolutely on nobody's list.
Nope,
it's not getting any critical awards.
No.
It's at TIFF. It's not at a awardsy. It's not at Cannes or Venice.
And I guess TIFF was not as awardsy as it was.
It's more of just like a fall launch pad.
Because the following year is Sideways.
Sure.
Right,
Still never seen that.
Sideways is fucking good.
Merlot.
I will say, when that movie came out, I was not crazy about it, and I was such a big Alexander Payne fan and such a big Giamatti fan, and I was disappointed by it. And unsurprisingly, that is maybe a movie that plays better when you're not 15 years old.
Yeah, I would imagine. Like I was in middle school when that movie came out, so
I just remember being like, no, I get it. I just don't think it's very good. And then I watch it now, and I'm like, oh, now I've made some mistakes in my life, and I'm in my 30s. I think this is a good film.
I have not seen Sideways since 2004.
I had not seen it since 2004 until about a year ago, and I think it's very good.
Sideways, that was such a thing. That is funny.
But I'm saying that was such a like Toronto launch.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it won every critics award.
Maybe like, oh, whatever wins at Toronto is going to be a major player for the rest of the year.
Well, this didn't win at Toronto. Let me see what won at Toronto that year.
2003 won at Toronto.
Do you want to guess?
Is it one of the movies we listed already?
Come on, who won? Where's the awards? Jesus, scroll.
That's the other thing, because Toronto is the audience award. It's like,
no,
this isn't a jury.
You're never going to guess. Zatoichi won the People's Choice Award that year. The Takeshi Kitano, Blind Swordsman.
No, because after this point, outside of that weird movie Bella, which inexplicably won the audience award,
it's usually
everything that wins becomes like a fucking
contender.
Oscar.
Bella?
It was this weird fucking half Spanish drama that won the audience award out of nowhere, and then everyone's like, is this thing going to be some crossover success? And it came out and everyone shrugged.
In the Cut, though, is actually the best.
Yeah.
And rules.
Just sidebar. The only reason I remember Bella is because Bella's entire marketing campaign was, here are 15 other movies that won the audience award at Toronto.
Sure.
It literally was just like, we have no other hook for this other than to say Sideways won and fucking Princess Bride won.
Well, I don't know that movie. I haven't seen it. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
But yes, it is. I mean, well, there's the occasional, like Eastern Promises won one year. That's the Canada thing. Occasionally, Canada will win out at the
Belfast, Green Book.
You're forgetting Where Do We Go Now? A weird winner.
What is that?
Yeah, exactly. Occasionally, it's something unusual.
Okay.
What won last year, though? I mean, last year.
Last year,
2021. I mean,
Right. What?
Belfast.
Oh, well, I just said Belfast.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Really? That?
David?
It's usually the straight down the middle thing.
I forgot what year it was. I thought you were saying 2020.
I know. I realized that was me. Yeah. The year before was Nomadland. The year before
right.
Was Jojo Rabbit.
Right.
The year before that was Green Book.
Yes.
Anyway.
Box office.
No attention, though. Just none.
Yeah.
It sinks like a stone. Gets bad reviews. I don't know when it had its reappraisal, to be honest.
I
guess it was just sort of I
think when we saw it in 2017, it had not been fully reclaimed.
Well,
I remember when I published my piece at the beginning of 2019, the only other published work that I knew liked the movie was Christina Newland's book, She Lost It at the Movies. There's a pro In the Cut essay in that. And this is it's funny because if you get it, it's in the cut essay, and so many people would assume that it was me. And it's no, it turns out there was someone who has
there
been
are thousands of us.
Yeah. There was someone else. And when I saw, it's another woman who rides for this movie, I was like, okay, maybe I can start talking about this movie. And I remember at first when I started tweeting about it and talking about how much I loved it, I got a lot of anger and a lot of pushback from people. And it was just a weird thing where people just get mad because I liked the movie. And I mean, that doesn't really happen that much anymore. So it really does feel like it was in the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. I think people finally chilled out. I mean, the Wikipedia page, there's the section on reception, and it's first contemporary, and it's mostly people giving it bad reviews or people going there's some interesting things going on here, but it's obviously a mess, right?
Yeah.
Sort of like what you're saying, David, the way you talked about at the time. And then it says, In the Cut was among the films discussed favorably by Slavoj Žižek in The Pervert's Guide to Cinema.
He did do that.
So it feels like that's an early example of someone really staying for it hard. And then the next paragraph is retrospective, and Jourdain, you're the one person who's sort of quoted an excerpt in that from your piece. But now it's Fangoria has reclaimed it. Nick James put it on his Sight and Sound list. Fucking David Thompson. Nick James,
shut up.
Yeah.
Demby, I'm seeing some of the reviews JJ's put in here. JJ and Nick, sorry, I put it in here. Demby panned it, said it was phony, didn't like the ending. The ending, I should note, in the book, she dies.
Right.
In the book, the guy kills her.
Right.
With a scalpel.
Right.
Whereas in the movie, Campion was I just can't have that. And talked to the author about that can't be how this character's journey concludes. But he just, just very dismissive review there. Stephanie Zaharek, a colleague who I admire, obviously, but wrote a really good negative review that is sort of worth checking out. Not a super negative review, but kind of I struggled with this movie review. I want this incredible. Let me find it.
Can I share an unsubstantiated IMDb trivia fact while you search for this? Because I just find this very funny. Mickey Rourke was initially considered for a supporting role. However, his involvement was allegedly vetoed by Nicole Kidman on the strength of Rourke's wild reputation. Rourke has stated in interviews that he was disappointed by this, as he believes it would have fast-tracked his comeback.
Yeah, I don't think that's true, Mickey.
No. No, Mickey Rourke, the most self-destructive
that
man.
Sounds made up.
Looking at the response to In the Cut and going like, "Fuck, I wish I had been in that thing." That would have given me some
being
juice.
in anything in that era probably would have helped. I guess he was.
But they put him in shit, and people would be like he was in fucking Domino and Once Upon a Time in Mexico and whatever. Yeah. Anyway,
here's the depiction. The description of critics that Campion has.
Okay.
Recently, that I love. The first ring of reviewers in America are always men. It's this mountain of corduroy you have to get through. That is the line I love. They're not secure, so to see women talking about them rudely, it might as well be them.
David's trademark blazer found.
She calls it the corduroy wall, and like they set the tone. And so she thinks that like if you're showing them a movie that has extreme content or something, sometimes it can just not go over the corduroy wall. That's anyway. So good. Manohla Dargis, as you said, has a much more interesting review.
Right.
Rosenbaum also had it.
She kind of half defended. Noel Murray, I think, kind of half defended it.
Great movie. Opened. All right, so let's do the limited release though.
Yeah.
A week before Halloween.
How wide does it go on Halloween?
On Halloween, it goes up to 825 screens.
Okay.
And it goes to number 11.
Okay. Yeah.
Behind a film called Good Boy that I've never heard of.
Oh, that's a movie about a talking alien dog. Yeah.
The week before, it's fairly
it's the dog.
There are no new,
I'm a dog.
There are no new releases.
Call me Good Boy.
On Halloween, as you noted.
Yes, right.
The only new release is The Human Stain. On limited screen. So it's the same basically. So number one at the box office when In the Cut is tanking.
Yeah.
Is a parody film.
A parody film.
Opening huge to $48 million.
Yes. It is Scary Movie 3.
It's 3.
Was huge.
The first of the Zucker scary movies, right? With Charlie Sheen.
2 kind of dipped a little bit and it felt like maybe
they did it a little too quickly too. It came
gas
back really
out of the
fast.
Tank, and then the Wayans brothers move on. And then there was this sort of like, let's just fucking get a Zucker in here and throw everything into the mix. And it's not really about scary movies anymore. And now it's fucking like Matrix parody. And
Matrix,
shit.
8 Mile.
Right. Just do
movies.
everything.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Scary becomes a meaningless term. But yes, a humongous hit.
Huge hit. Scary Movie 3. Never seen. Number 2 is a remake of a horror film.
Number 2 is a remake of a horror film. 2003. It would have been Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
That's right.
Film that has an unbelievable trailer.
Does it?
It has a trailer that like chilled me to my core, and I was like, "Is this going to be a fucking masterpiece?" And the movie is not as interesting as this trailer. It was, from my memory, at least the first
Jessica
modern
Biel
trailer to use the trick of it feels like the projector is breaking down.
Sure. Right.
Which is very unsettling to see in a theater.
What's that? What is that company? The Michael Bay company called
Platinum Dunes.
Platinum Dunes. Not Silver Dunes, right. David. Platinum Dunes.
That's like the beginning of the Platinum Dunes run. Right. But that movie was very big, and that kickstarted the remake horror fever for all these movies that were seen as untouchable and had been diminished by multiple sequels. It was
I've never seen
them all.
I've never seen. Have you seen the Texas Chainsaw?
Yeah, it's pretty boring. Okay. It looks really good. It has a couple good performances in it. Like Arlie Ermey's really fucking good in it. It's just it cannot capture the weird sort of like gonzo artistry of the original.
Number 3 at the box office is one of the most notorious failed attempts at an Oscar nomination of all time.
Oh.
I honestly credit to this movie, which I considered a complete flop, to opening to $13 million. More than I would have thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're saying for a Best Picture nomination, or is there like an acting? Okay. It's notorious.
Yes. Oscar-winning actor playing someone with, let's be honest, an intellectual disability.
Oh, of course.
Oh, wait.
This motion picture is called, do you want to say it, Jordan?
Oh my God, are you talking about I Am Sam?
No.
Not talking about I Am Sam, but it's in the I Am Sam zone.
This movie is called Radio.
Cuba Gooding Jr. I remember Radio.
Radio in the shopping cart.
I remember my mom renting this and me watching it in her bedroom and being like, what is happening?
I've never seen Radio. I know he has a radio, and that's why they call him Radio. But what does he do? Like, he plays football or something?
No, he helps out with the team.
Yeah, he helps out with the team. He's like, oh yeah, he's kind of like our mascot.
Right. It's like a dramatic version of The Waterboy, except he doesn't play.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's based on a real story, and they were like, Radio's the most inspiring man.
It was based on some Sports Illustrated story of like, oh, this high school football team has this guy who's like sweet and helps out, like, and they were like, Oscar. We're gonna get one.
But you want, I mean, you want to talk about like,
let's exploit the story about this black man
Right.
who definitely did not get paid.
oh, totally. Interesting counterpoint, or not counterpoint, but like counterweight to all this stuff we're talking about with fucking Meg Ryan's career and where she was at crossing 40, no one knowing what to do with her and rejecting her attempts to stretch out of this. I believe Radio was Deborah Winger's first movie in like 6 years. And in that downtime, Rosanna Arquette had made the documentary Searching for Deborah Winger, which got some traction. That was like her talking about like, why do all actresses disappear after 40?
Right.
And like Deborah Winger was like the woman of her generation, got fucking 4 Oscar nominations, and now just hasn't appeared on screen. And it was like, what happened to her? And it was her interviewing actresses on the cusp of 40 who had just turned 40. That thread of just feeling the parts disappear, and then they get to Deborah Winger, and she's just kind of like, I don't know, no one's giving me anything fucking good. I just like, nothing dramatic happened to me. It's just, there's no reason to work. And then she comes back, and she's like, thankless, supportive wife role to Ed Harris coach in Radio, and it was so depressing.
I mean, I'm glad that she's back now with...
she does shit.
Yeah, she was in Kajillionaire, and I thought that she was really great in that. She's in The Lovers...
Yep,
she's great
movie.
in that.
Yeah, she's
with Tracy Letts.
She's really with Tracy Letts. She's really great in that.
100 episodes of The Ranch, quietly Netflix's most watched series ever. Maybe.
Oh my god, The Ranch.
The Ranch.
He is on The Ranch.
So, but like, wasn't the whole thing with Deborah Winger though that she was like difficult?
That was also part of it. Yep.
Yeah.
Which was, by all accounts, when you look at it now and you read the exact pieces in which people tried to explain her difficult behavior, you're like, sounds like she had integrity. Sounds like she wanted things to be good. David's doing a shaky hand.
Number 4 at the box office is a dying genre, the Grisham thriller.
Oh,
might be the last one. I think
it's Runaway Jury.
It's Runaway Jury.
Yeah.
I think this is the final Grisham movie that's not like Christmas with the Cranks or whatever, like which technically is a Grisham film.
It's Hackman's second to last film, and the whole thing is like Hackman and fucking Hoffman together.
Right. Although, are they? I've seen this film because I watched every John Grisham movie in quarantine, or maybe before. I can't remember when I did that.
So the funny story of this movie is they put them together, and everyone's like, "Fuck, these two guys, and the generation,
big 70s
and they were
actors,
living together, all this shit. They never been in a movie together,
roommates."
And then they do the movie, and then they're like, "Oh fuck, we forgot to write any scene for them to be in."
Because they're both like in different war rooms, like going like, we got to get the best runaway juries or whatever.
I saw this movie on a plane 19 years ago, but there was one scene, I believe, where they stand next to each other at urinals and talk, and they had to like do that in reshoots because they realized they had fucked up so badly and never had them interact.
That like the Grisham run is The Firm, The Pelican Brief, The Client, A Time to Kill. Like this is where these things are huge at the box office. And The Chamber, The Rainmaker, The Gingerbread Man, Okay, The Bloom is Off the Rose. And then this is just kind of, it's like, okay, Hollywood's just like, great, nobody wants these anymore.
But it was like a middling double. I'm sure it made a bunch of money on
$49 million. Yeah, it did okay.
Was that the one with John Cusack?
And Rachel Weisz. Yeah. It was like a stacked cast.
It has a good cast.
Yeah.
It's Cusack, Weisz, Hackman, Hoffman, Bruce McGill, Jeremy Piven.
Oh man, Jeremy Piven.
Leland Orser. Do you think he plays a creepy guy?
This is maybe the 3rd episode in a row where you've made that joke. I don't even remember why he's
He's always popping up. Anyway. But you know what? But I watched that movie like pretty recently, and I don't remember anything about it. Except that I think Hackman's good.
Yeah.
Because the thing with Hackman is in those movies, he's good. Like even when it's a total like behind enemy lines, like total like nothing,
incredible
he's still good.
We were texting about Hackman with our friends, the Doughboys, recently, and our ongoing thread of just like, remember that guy when he was like the best actor in the fucking world? He was good in everything. And I shared with you guys this clip that I highly recommend of Kevin Costner being interviewed by Rich Eisen, talking about doing what's that movie called? Not No Sudden Move. No Way Out.
Night Moves?
No Way Out.
No Way Out.
The Costner Hackman movie.
Yeah, No Way
Out. Yes.
Yeah.
It's an incredible story about just Costner talking about Hackman being the best actor he had ever worked with, and the sort of advice
early Costner
that he gave him. And Hackman was just the GOAT. But also, fucking rad to just be like, I don't need this shit anymore. I'm just going to retire and write fucking historical thrillers.
He's still alive?
Yeah. Kicking it.
Jordan, Resurrection just got bought by IFC Shudder. FYI.
I love that.
Me too.
Oh man,
good place for it to go. We were just talking about this is our favorite Sundance. One of our
I'm amped to see it. Nothing I love more than overcranked Rebecca Hall horror. My favorite subgenre. Now.
Oh my god, I can't wait.
Were you a Night House fan?
I'm not a Night House fan, but
I feel like I'm the only person who loves
the Night House.
No, people really do like the Night House. I love her performance in it. I think Incredible. The ending is what gets me.
See, I was warned about the ending and it worked for me, but her performance is just like
I should watch it.
No, you're gonna like Resurrection.
I can't wait.
Yeah, it's really good. Number 5 at the box office is this is the funny thing. It's also based on like a paperback bestseller. But this is a movie that got nominated for Best Picture. This is like a big deal movie.
Got nominated for Best Picture. 2003.
It's sort of a comeback for its director,
right?
Critically,
it's Mystic River.
It's Mystic River, but like it's funny that like
yes.
Eastwood charts the new path of how to do the airport novel. I mean, Dennis Lehane is above an airport thriller or whatever, but like he's still he's a best-selling paperback type genre writer.
Yes.
Anyway, Mystic River.
Mystic River. Not a movie I think either of us love.
No.
I don't love it, but do you know who's good in it?
Kevin Bacon. This was an early thing that you and I bonded over of like
best performance.
You also agree that he's far and away the best performance in the movie, and the two guys who won Oscars for that movie are bad in it, right?
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Bacon's incredible in that movie.
He's incredible in that movie, and that movie is not good. Sean Penn, can't remember the last time Sean Penn was good.
It is just kind of funny how much that movie did for Eastwood, Robbins, and
Bacon's
Penn.
Just like, guess I'll go fuck myself, whatever.
Right. And when you look at it now, you're just like, embarrassing work from all three.
Yeah, I think Robbins getting attention for that, very funny.
And it makes Dennis Lehane like this like hot, you gotta adapt author, and you're like, that's the worst adaptation of his work.
It's a good book too. It's a very good book. Robbins to me is the one who's really bad, and that Oscar win is inexplicable beyond, I guess, just a sort of a career thing.
Right.
The Penn performance,
I don't hate it, but it's
when you think about Eastwood too,
right,
where it's like you just imagine Penn just detonating bombs like on set, and Eastwood being like, "Great, let's move on." No attempt to modulate. It's just he's just like more.
It's just
like,
so big.
That's how I imagine that.
But then just that movie comes out in New York Times is like, this is perhaps the greatest performance in the history of cinema. Like it was just like received not just as like it's time for him to win the Oscar, but like we have to reckon with he has redefined the art.
There was also that thing of like, well, he should have won for Dead Man Walking, and like Penn is undersung. I mean, look,
despite being a person who like was constantly burning bridges and making enemies and all of that. So that was his whole Oscar speech was like, I know I haven't been easy to root for. And
it's like literally never. I was actually just recently found out that he and Vincent D'Onofrio's daughter are breaking up, and I was so glad. I thought that was so weird.
Cool.
I'm to be very
so surprised to hear that marriage didn't work.
It's so weird. It's just like, I guess I married my dad's friend.
Whenever anyone asks D'Onofrio about that, like on fucking Twitter, the terminally online Vincent D'Onofrio, he is very
online. He wants the pigs to look at the sky.
I will not comment on this.
Because he hated it.
He just hates it.
He hated it.
Sean Penn married
now
Vincent D'Onofrio's like 26-year-old
family dinners.
Yeah.
Totally forgot about that. That is wild.
It's the only thing Vincent D'Onofrio will not comment on Twitter.
So good. Yeah. It's so funny.
Some other films in the top 10.
He'll tweet about West Elm Caleb. Like he'll tweet.
Of course.
He'll tweet about anything.
He'll hit those trending topics. Yeah. He'll barge right in.
Yeah.
School of Rock,
a masterpiece.
Kill Bill Volume 1, Intolerable Cruelty,
a movie I love,
and one of the best movies about Star 69ing Italy, Under the Tuscan Sun. Can you Star 69 Italy? That's what Sandra Oh says in the trailer.
Yeah, no, I remember.
Never thought. Never forgot.
That's a charming movie.
Under the Tuscan Sun. Beautiful. Wait, was this also the Down with Love year?
It is the Down with Love year.
That's that summer.
Mm-hmm.
Down with Love.
Incredible movie.
03 is like a good summer. The whole year is good. It's a good year for movies.
It really is. It's a good year.
A good year for movies. No, it really is.
Also just a year where you're like, people have diverse tastes. Audiences are going to see different genres at different budget levels.
Yeah, it's such a smorgasbord, and we don't really have that anymore. And I also just recently watched Matrix Reloaded for the first time.
Oh, Jordan, you cannot drop this.
My number 2 movie of 2003
goes off, man. Incredible. I couldn't believe it. I had spent all these years being like, oh, the Matrix Reloaded is bad. And I was just like, you mean by bad, do you mean incredible?
Great opinion by Jordan Searles on the podcast.
Add it to the Wikipedia section.
Amazingly, not my number 1 movie of 2003, though.
Your number 1 movie of 2003 would have been
Master and Commander.
Oh, well, of course.
And then Kill Bill is a great movie that year.
Is In the Cut your number 3?
In the Cut is my number 5 because I have Reloaded and Revolutions at 2 and 3.
Wait,
sorry,
so what's
it's
your
my number 4.
I'm sorry. Okay.
And Kill Bill is my number 5.
Yeah.
Okay, wait. I need you to go down this list 1 to 5 right now.
Master and Commander, Matrix Reloaded, Matrix Revolutions, In the Cut, Kill Bill, Volume 1. But you should think of those two Matrixes. I'm kind of cheating by having them next to each other.
Right. Yeah.
And then Unknown Pleasures, still one of my favorite Jia Zhangke movies. I'm sorry if I mangled his name. I love Hulk, Griff.
Right.
You love. I do love The Fog of War. Errol Morris is The Fog of War. Big movie for me when I was 17. I do love Jerry.
I mean, I'm
Gus
trying
Van Sant's Jerry.
I love
Down with Love.
We've covered.
Wait. You loved Jerry?
Jerry rules.
Oh my god!
I was all about around in that
I'm learning so much about you right now.
I love Open Range, the Kevin Costner film.
Open Range goes off.
Goes all the way off. I do love All the Real Girls.
Yeah.
It was
good.
It was a champion again of my teenagehood.
Right.
I
mean, I didn't.
I love Guy Madden's Dracula Pages from a Virgin's Diary.
As you should. As you absolutely should.
I do love City of God. Haven't seen that in a long time, but I liked that a lot at the time
since it came out. I mean, as covered on this podcast, I was obsessed with Big Fish at the time and saw it 8 times in theaters because it was the only movie that made me cry. That was definitely my number 1 at the time. I have not gone back and done a list through a modern prism. Both things I didn't see at the time, like In the Cut and All the Real Girls, are certainly way up there for me. But I'm like,
All the Real
huge for me at the time.
Is my number 1 Hulk by default? I'm just like, I wonder if there's a movie I have invested more energy in. You know?
I don't know.
I'd have to think it over.
Absolutely. Sorry. Some of my other I got distracted. I love Intolerable Cruelty. Huge defender of that movie. I love Shattered Glass. I think that movie's good. I like School of Rock. It's fun. I like The Station Agent. I like Something's Gotta Give.
I still need to see The Station Agent. Love Something's Gotta Give.
Yeah.
Spy
Kids 3D Game Over.
Sure. And then there's a lot of there's Demon Lover, which is a movie that's sort of like an In the Cut kind of thing where I've never been able to get to loving that movie, but I certainly admire that movie's energy. Very Ben Hosley movie. I'm sure he's never seen it, but you would dig.
I'm just looking at fucking August of 2003, and on one weekend you had Freaky Friday, right? A surprisingly good Disney family comedy coming out at the same time as Secret Lives of Dentists and Magdalene Sisters and Geely. Just the variety there, you know?
There was more variety back then. I love SWAT, as you know.
Well, of course. A movie you've threatened to cover on the podcast a couple times.
Clark Johnson film. I'll stick up for Dreamcatcher any day of the week.
Oh my god!
Hollywood should put out more Dreamcatchers and less.
You are truly
Spider-Man.
a loose cannon.
I am a loose cannon.
Fighting Temptations, obviously.
I have seen that, but not.
It's kind of fun.
Since
I love
2003.
Fighting Temptations.
Kind of a fun movie.
Beyonce and Cuba Gooding Jr. actually work really well together.
Beyonce's memory hold movie career is a thing I will never stop being obsessed with.
When she was just should I just kind of be in movies
doing
parts?
Carmen, a hip opera. Come on,
Goldmember.
She was great. She's incredible in Cadillac Records. Obviously, I love that early run of hers.
Yeah.
Before she became whatever.
But then even when she
a goddess atop a pyramid,
the fucking Idris Elba
perceive.
Fucking other woman.
Is it Obsessed or
right? Which was a weirdly big hit. No one remembers.
Obsessed is a bad movie, but it was a big hit.
It was a big ass hit.
It was a big ass hit. Ali Larter, watch out.
She's great in Cadillac Records, which obviously we always stand any chance we can. Yeah. And she was in what I think was the highest grossing movie of all time, the Lion King remake. Just trying. I believe that was the number 1 highest grossing movie of all time.
Apparently.
Because of her.
Yes.
It was the
it's definitely because of her.
Definitely.
I guess she'll be in the Lion.
Double duty on that, releasing that album, girl.
I guess she'll be in Barry Jenkins's The Lion King 2 Simba's Pride or whatever.
Well, the idea
it would be funny if he was so here's my take. It's just Simba's Pride. I'm just doing that.
I really want that to be it.
I hope he does Lion King 1.5.
Yeah, I'm doing 1.5, baby.
Rosencrantz and Guildenstern is dead. No, isn't the thought that it's Godfather Part 2 that it's a split narrative of young Simba
and young Mufasa or whatever?
King Simba and young Mufasa and Scar.
I mean, hey, look.
I don't know. Look,
wouldn't it be great? Wouldn't it be great if it was actually animated? Wouldn't it?
Ugh.
I would appreciate it.
What if the trailer came out and it was hand drawn?
I would actually watch it. Yeah, because I still have not seen the light.
It's not very good.
That.
Yeah, just think about it.
It's not really very good.
It's a bad.
You may have seen it and forgotten you saw it. It's pretty plausible.
No, like I said, like I watched Black is King, and I was like, oh, this got the songs. Yeah.
Black is King. The Lion is not, unfortunately.
Did Black is King come out in quarantine? There are now things.
It did come out in quarantine.
Where I'm like, I watched that, but in that sort of swirling mess of early quarantine, right?
Absolutely, like,
yeah, July 2020. Yeah, yep. Okay, we're done. In the Cut, one of the great films.
In the Cut, one of the great films.
I hope people enjoyed it, and if they didn't, too bad.
Yeah. Jordan, do you have any final thoughts you want to share?
The thing that In the Cut does that even now, like in current times, we still really don't see kind of like a reclaiming of eroticism in American cinema. Still eroticism is basically gone, and watching In the Cut just makes me think about like all of the female directors that could have, because she really is one of the few that got a chance to make a movie like that. We didn't really talk about it, but like not a lot of women got to make erotic thrillers during that time.
Yes. Right.
This is a pin I put in 2 hours ago that I'm now remembering I never got to resolve. But there is that weird thing. I mean, to just talk about the deeply ingrained puritanical nature of American audiences and all of that shit. And now there's obviously the every 1 month discourse of like, are sex scenes bad? Why are Marvel movies sexless? And both arguments like bumping up against each other. But so many of the most like hated, like this was a disaster, this movie is embarrassing, it needs to be mocked, Hollywood movies of like 1990 to 2005 were highly sexual. Yeah. Like things like Basic Instinct 2, which obviously like we haven't seen and I don't think is defendable, but like the backlash to that was so much stronger than like a backlash to an action movie sequel, you know, where it's like, how dare you do this? Showgirls, obviously. Like there is this thing where like, if you make a bad, sexy movie, it's like a crime against nature. How dare you put this in front of me?
Well, yeah. And I mean, also...
And look, it's happened with male stars like Color of Night and shit like that. But I think you are right. This movie is unique in that it's one of those directed by a woman with the perspective of a woman, which is maybe why it got an even worse response.
Yeah. And it's not just that it got like a response because people are afraid of sex. It's that people decided that it was badly made. Like the cognitive dissonance of deciding that a film that is this well made is badly made. Like it was like there was something about the rewiring of the brains. Like you don't have to like this movie, but to say that it's badly made is just factually untrue.
Yeah.
So it's just, I am one of those people where it's just like, can we please bring sex back to movies? Can we please bring back chemistry casting? My lord.
Yep.
Like you, it's just when I watch it, the thing that really like jolted me. It was really like a shot to the arm, and I was really energized by this movie. Was because it just reminded me of when people were able to like have their bodies in an American film, and it be casual, just like her, like Meg Ryan lying in bed with Jennifer Jason Leigh, like them
in
just
the
like
bath, things like that.
Them just like spending time together, and like the way that they're close to each other. It's like they're so like the sisterhood in that is like it's so intimate and it's so real. Like, of course, you're not going to put on all your clothes to hang out with your sister,
right?
Like, you know, and they're like, and you know, Jennifer Jason Leigh's like, thanks for sharing your bed, just like this ability to be close and to be in your body and to display your body, and especially at like in getting like older, which they both were getting older at the time, and they just like it was just so beautiful to see them, and it's beautiful to see how they're shot. And I think that a lot of the backlash had to do with the fact that like so many of these erotic thrillers that we grew up with didn't really like sex, and In the Cut is a movie that likes sex, that likes women's bodies, that isn't afraid of women's bodies.
It's not punishing people for having sex.
And for how hot this movie is, the sexuality in the movie is not exclusively designed to titillate. And I do think sometimes with maybe the wall of corduroy, there is this violent response of like, I didn't find this fucking hot. I didn't have a boner. What the fuck is this movie doing?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a bunch of people who like really, and that's why like sometimes when people are talking about like the male gaze, people are so obsessed with the male gaze, subverting the male gaze, what the male gaze is. But the thing about it is that like as a bisexual woman who watches movies, like it's hot. Like if it's hot, it's hot. If it's not hot, it's not hot. Like it's not like in a situation like this where like you are able to see, there are ways to display a woman's nude body in a way that you don't have to say male gaze.
I agree with that.
Sure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Movies are innately voyeuristic.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And sexiness is inherently part of the chemical makeup of movies as an art form. We shouldn't be running away from it.
Yeah, and I think that it's notable that the loudest voices reclaiming it right now are women because we find it hot. It was almost like nobody really asked us before.
Sure.
And there, I mean, of course, there are women who did not like this movie, but they're also from like a different generation than a lot of us who are writing for it right now. And I think that also matters.
I mean, full circle, but fucking whatever it was 4 years ago, Nicole Kidman signed this big deal with Amazon about like, I want to bring erotic thrillers back. Where are these $30 million star-driven movies you can watch with a bottle of wine? And it was a big fucking deal that she was going to bring this thing back, and not one film has come out of that deal. Jordan, thank you so much for being on the show. People should listen to Bad Romance.
Yeah, please do. Please do.
Great podcast you host with Bronwyn, Ariel, Isaac. And I want to thank everyone for listening to this show.
Wow.
Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. Thank you to Marie Barty for our social media, Joe Bowen and Pat Reynolds for our artwork, AJ McKee and Alex Barron for our editing, Leigh Montgomery and the Great American Novel for our theme song, JJ Birch, Nick Loriano for our research. You can go to patreon.com/blankcheck for Blank Check special features, where at this point we're still on Ghostbusters. I have no sense of time. We're doing Ghostbusters, then we're doing The Matrix.
Yeah, I don't know where we're at.
I don't remember who knows where we're at.
I think we're in the Matrix.
We're either in the afterlife.
The Matrix is about to start.
We're about to enter the Matrix.
Yeah, we're going to do the Matrix.
Okay.
We're in the Matrix.
You sick fucks, we're going to do the Matrix again.
Got the last Ghostbusters coming up. And
it's great. And it's very normal. The Ghostbusters episode, we're in a really good mood for those last two episodes. They're two movies that are really fun to talk about. And go to the Blank Check website.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna list all the other links.
Yeah,
they're all there now. We fucking done it. I'm just so tired
Enough.
of doing all this shit.
We thank nobody.
I will never thank anyone ever again. Tune in next week for Bright Star.
Yeah.
Your favorite movie 2009.
Definitely.
Great film.
Movie.
Great
You
film.
love.
I do.
And as always, no sense of cock whatsoever.
No sense of cock whatsoever.
No sense of cock whatsoever.